My beloved, if you have come here seeking knowledge of the chakras so that you may become more powerful, more energized, more emotionally stable, or more admired in the eyes of the world, I must first shake you gently but firmly from that illusion. For the chakras were never given to man for personality, nor for performance, nor for psychic display. They were not placed within you to decorate your aura or to flatter the ego. The chakras are sacred gateway silent, luminous portals through which the soul returns to its forgotten origin in spirit. They are not badges to wear, they are altars to bow upon. To misuse them is to remain a prisoner with golden chains. To understand them truly is to hold in your own breath the stairway to the infinite. There is a great misunderstanding in this age, a glittering deception that has cloaked these sacred centers in emotional labels and rainbowed commercialism, as if the divine intelligence that shaped galaxies arranged these chakras merely for personal empowerment or emotional comfort. But I tell you, child of the infinite, these centers are not here to improve the self. They are here to dissolve it. They are not tools for expression, they are instruments for transcendence. They were placed within you by God, not to embellish the dream of Maya, but to unmake it. You were never meant to stay in this body and decorate its delusions. You were meant to rise breath by breath, vertebra by vertebra through these spinning wheels of light, until the veil lifts, the noise falls away, and you stand face to face with your Maker. Do you see now? That confusion, you've felt that restless ache, despite all your practices, despite the colored candles and guided meditations and affirmations, that ache was sacred. It was the soul crying out, there must be more than this. And there is. The true power of the chakras is not found in stimulation, but in stillness. Not in activation, but in surrender. Not in imagining their colors, but in transcending the very need to imagine. When rightly understood, they are not decorations of the body, they are stairsteps for the soul. They are not playgrounds for energy, they are altars of light, designed by God, placed within you to carry your consciousness back to the source. So come with me. I will take you upward not through speculation, but through realization, not through theory, but through the divine science revealed by the great rishis of India and confirmed through my own communion with the infinite. Let us rise now, together. But before we begin the sacred climb, you must first understand what the chakras truly are, not as the world describes them, but as God designed them. Child of the light, before you ever took your first breath in this life, before your soul slipped into the garment of flesh, before your name was spoken or your destiny began to unfold, God placed within you a secret pathway, sacred corridor not made of stone or time, but of divine energy and eternal remembrance. This is the astral spine, the sushumna, the luminous staff of light that rises unseen from the base of your being to the crown of your head. And within it dwell the 7 mighty chakras, not as ornaments, but as living altars, not as decorations for human experience, but as the dwelling places of ascending consciousness. These chakras are not symbols to be admired from a distance, they are doorways to the infinite, vibrating thresholds through which the breath of God rises upward, calling the prodigal soul home to its immortal origin. This spine, this vertical river of divine ascent, is your Jacob's ladder, and the chakras are its rungs. It is the true tree of life, of which the ancients spoke, the same tree seen in visions by yogis and prophets. Its roots buried in the earth of the body, its trunk extending upward through stillness, and its blossoms opening in the light beyond form. Even the scriptures of the West allude to this truth, veiled in the language of vision. And I saw 7 golden candlesticks. It is written in the book of Revelation, these are the chakras, the 7 lights along the altar of the spine, awaiting the oil of devotion and the flame of divine remembrance. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks to Arjuna of the sacred yogi who draws his life force upward through the 6 centers and fixes his gaze between the eyebrows, thus reaching liberation. This is no metaphor. This is the sacred blueprint. And I tell you this from experience, not speculation. The spine is the highway to God. It is the invisible bridge that carries the soul from bondage to bliss, from identification with the body to union with the spirit. In deep meditation, when the breath slows and the world fades, the true yogi enters this luminous inner path, and as his attention ascends from chakra to chakra, each center awakens not as a wheel of color, but as a vortex of divine vibration, each one tuned to a different octave of God's cosmic symphony. He feels the kundalini coiled energy at the base begin to stir, not violently, but reverently, and rise like a golden serpent up the spine, not to empower the ego, but to dissolve it in waves of light until only God remains. But to walk this path, you must walk it not with curiosity, but with reverence, not as a tourist of mysticism, but as a pilgrim of remembrance. The chakras are not for playing with energy, they are for ascending beyond it. Each one is a sacred gate, and when entered with humility, it reveals not power, but presence, not sensation, but surrender. This path is within you. It is not in a book or a mantra or a teacher's touch, it is written in the very architecture of your being. Your body is the temple, your spine is the altar, your breath is the incense. Your awareness is the priest. Come now, let us leave behind all the shallow misinterpretations. Let us move past the myths and confusions. Let us ascend step by sacred step through each chakra, from the base to the brow, not as theorists or seekers of sensation, but as souls remembering what we already are. The climb is not of height, but of depth, not of imagination, but of awakening. And as we rise, we will unmask the illusions that have kept these sacred centers veiled and discover the truth of their divine purpose, not to keep you here, but to lift you home. Now, my beloved, let us tear away the veils that time and trend have hung over these sacred gateways. For the truth cannot be known until the false has been burned away, and the fire of discernment must be kindled in you if you wish to rise without weight, to see without distortion, to awaken without illusion. You have heard so much of the chakra show, each corresponds to a color, a stone, a frequency, a personality trait, a healing potential, but I must tell you now, in the name of the Eternal, that such things, while charming to the mind and comforting to the emotions, are not the essence of these divine centers. These are only garments draped over a sleeping God within you, garments that may distract more than they reveal, colors that may stimulate more than they awaken, myths that may flatter the ego more than they free the soul. You have been told that the chakras are emotional centers, that one is for survival, another for sexuality, another for willpower, another for love, and in this mapping, there is a shadow of truth, but also a great danger, for the soul begins to interpret itself through the lens of emotion, and in doing so, remains caught in the very net it seeks to escape. You are not your emotions. You are not a bundle of energetic patterns shifting from fear to joy to grief to desire. You are the eternal witness behind them all, the divine spark who rides above the wave, not the wave itself. And if you reduce the sacred chakras to emotional centers, you will spend your life trying to balance the shifting sand beneath your feet, never realizing that balance comes not by manipulating the sand, but by remembering you are not the one standing on it, you are the sky in which all of it moves. And what of the colors? The modern mind, so visual, so stimulated by imagery, clings to the rainbow arrayed, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo. Violet, as if coloring the chakras correctly will unlock the gates of heaven. But I tell you, the soul is not awakened by color, but by stillness. The chakras do not respond to visualization alone, they open to vibration, to silence, to the upward flow of life force consecrated by devotion and deep interior absorption. Even the colors you see, should you glimpse them in meditation, are not fixed, they change according to your consciousness, your purity, your attunement. They are living flames, not glass windows. Do not trap them in paint when they long to burn. And then, there is the greatest myth of all, that the chakras are keys to psychic power, to manifestation, to personal magnetism, to attracting love or success or admiration. This, more than any other distortion, binds the soul to Maya. For when you seek the chakras for gain, you anchor your consciousness in the very world you were born to transcend. The chakras were not placed within you to help you win an illusion, they were given to dissolve the illusion. They are not stairways to better dreams, they are ladders out of the dream entirely. The yogi does not awaken the chakras to become more powerful in the world, he awakens them to rise above the world, to become one with God, to merge his little self with the infinite self beyond all name, beyond all gain, beyond all form. So I say to you, with love and luminous urgency, do not chase energy. Rise in consciousness. Do not decorate your cage, break it. Do not paint the walls of the prison, walk out. These centers are sacred, not because they are energetic, but because they are spiritual. They are not to be stimulated but revered. They are not light switches to flip on, they are living temples to be entered in silence, with breath, with prayer, with surrender. Let us now begin the true ascent, not as energy explorers, but as divine pilgrims. From the base to the brow, we shall climb not to possess, but to dissolve. Not to master the chakras, but to remember the master within. Now, beloved soul, we begin the sacred ascent not in theory, not in imagination, but in interior realization. And the first gate you must approach is the Muladhara, the root chakra, which lies coiled at the base of the spine, hidden near the coccyx, buried not in flesh, but in astral subtlety, resting like a divine serpent asleep in the soil of your deepest being, waiting not for noise, not for movement, not for manipulation, but for your stillness, for your inward gaze, for the breath no longer scattered by desire, for the soul that whispers not, I want, but I remember. This chakra is not about survival, as the world has labeled, but it is about origin, about the source, about the divine potential lying dormant within you like a seed buried in winter soil. Silent, unseen, but holy, encoded with the memory of the tree it is destined to become. The Kundalini rests here not as a force to be forced, but as a presence to be invoked through reverence, through devotion, through the gradual quieting of all that is not God. When you sit in meditation, upright and surrendered, and your breath begins to slow, and your mind begins to bow, and your gaze returns to the sacred point between the eyebrows, the Muladhara begins to stir not with fireworks or sensation, but with sacred silence, with a warmth that is not heat, but remembrance. You must not poke at it, must not try to awaken it with will or fantasy. It is not awakened by demand, it is awakened by alignment. The more you bring your awareness to God, the more this root begins to uncoil not upward through the ego's ambitions, but upward through the soul's surrender. The soul does not climb by stirring the mud, it climbs by stilling the waters. And that brings us to the second gate, Svadhisthana. This chakra, located in the region of the sacrum, just above the root, is associated with the water element, and in the language of Maya, it is linked to sexuality, to desire, to emotional movement, but in divine reality, it is not meant to express the lower, it is meant to be stilled, to be disciplined, to be offered back into the sacred current that flows toward God. The modern world tells you to liberate this center by indulging it, but indulgence does not liberate, it binds. What the yogi learns here is mastery, not suppression, but spiritual refinement, thou to contain the life force, how to gather the scattered waters of desire and redirect them into the upward stream. For energy must be lifted, not leaked. Here the soul learns that pleasure is not the end, it is the distraction. Bliss, divine bliss, is the goal. And bliss comes not through excitation, but through stillness, through withdrawal of life force from the outer senses, through concentration of attention at the seat of the soul. Imagine now, beloved, that your awareness is descending gently through the spine in stillness, and it pauses at this watery gate, and you say, not, give me, but take me. O Lord, you offer the current of your life into the upward channel. You no longer identify with the craving, you remember you are the witness, the keeper of divine fire, not the chaser of flickering candles. And when this is realized not in intellect, but in breath, the water becomes still. The image of God reflects upon it like the moon resting on a silent lake, and you rise. You do not climb by pushing upward with force. You climb by surrendering downward everything that is not worthy to ascend. From mud to water, and now to fire, we are ready to enter the Manipura, the center of transmutation. And now, my divine companion on the inward journey, as we ascend from the waters of Svadhisthana, we arrive at the realm of fire, the Manipura chakra, the luminous center that burns behind the navel, the third portal in the sacred spine, and here the yogi must pause, for this is the forge of transformation, the temple of inner alchemy, the place where raw desire must be transmuted into disciplined will, where the flickering flame of egoic ambition must be steadied into the eternal fire of divine resolve. This is not merely a center of power, it is a crucible. The fire that burns here can consume you in the fever of pride, in the madness of control, in the illusion of separateness, or it can purify you into gold if you offer your lower tendencies as sacred fuel for the upward climb. The modern world tells you that this chakra is your personal powerhouse, that you must activate it to manifest your goals, to push, to command, to conquer, but I say to you, this fire is not for conquest. It is for consecration. Here the breath must be directed inward and upward. Here the yogi learns to burn his desires, not fulfill them. Not by repression, not by self-denial in the worldly sense, but by spiritual digestion, the act of taking every impulse, every craving, every hunger for status or satisfaction, and holding it in the quiet fire of divine will, until the illusion burns away and only the light of soul purity remains. When the fire of Manipura is misunderstood, man becomes a creature of restlessness and domination, always reaching outward, always seeking more. But when this center is awakened in stillness, it no longer reaches outward, it radiates inwardly. A sun of centered joy, a flame that needs no fuel from the world, for it is fed from above, not below. And once this inner fire has been purified, once the yogi has stilled the hunger for personal identity, the consciousness rises naturally to the next chamber heart, the Anahata chakra, the fourth center in the spine, and it is here that many imagine they have arrived at love, at kindness, at open-hearted giving. But my child, do not mistake emotion for realization. Do not confuse feeling with freedom. The true heart center is not the storm of emotion, it is the still sky behind it. It is called Anahata, not struck, because it vibrates without collision. It is not a reaction. It is not based on another's behavior. It is the divine neutrality of the soul, the calm compassion that radiates not because of what is happening, but in spite of it. It is the mirror of the eternal self, reflecting peace regardless of circumstance, like the silent sun that shines on saints and sinners alike. The modern seeker says, I feel love in my heart, but true Anahata is not a feeling. It is a frequency. It is the silence from which love arises, the space between breaths where God waits to be remembered. Here the yogi does not try to generate love, he abides in it. He does not reach out, radiates. He does not attach, he blesses. He does not need, he gives, without condition, without expectation, without identity. And in this great stillness of the heart, when the breath has slowed and the spine remains upright like a candle in the inner temple, the yogi finds that all reactions have faded, and only witnessing remains, and in that witnessing is the beginning of true inner freedom. Now, dear soul, having passed through the fire of will and the still waters of divine compassion, the path leads us higher still to the ether, to the sky of vibration, to the soundless sound and the single eye. Now we arrive at the fifth gate, Vishuddha throat chakra, the temple of ether, the gateway of pure vibration, suspended in the great inner sky between the heart's silence and the soul's throne at the spiritual eye. And I say to you, seeker of the light, this center is not about verbal expression, not about communication or speaking your truth, as the world so often repeats it, is about purification, about refinement, about resonance with the eternal sound, the Aum, the primal vibration of spirit which underlies all creation and calls the soul back to its original frequency. When you enter this space in deep meditation, when the breath no longer pants for the world and the ego no longer whispers its needs, you do not feel the desire to speak, you feel the presence of the sound that is speaking everything into being, the silent thunder of God vibrating in the ether, within you, around you, through every atom and beyond all form. To activate this center rightly is not to talk more, but to become quiet enough to hear the Aum, to merge your will into that vibration, to refine your mind until even your thoughts begin to vibrate with devotion, until every word you speak becomes sacred not because of content, but because it arises from alignment with the infinite. The throat is not merely a passage for sound, it is a tuning chamber for consciousness. When misused, it becomes the outlet for the ego's noise, for opinions, for judgments, for endless streams of outer-directed energy that weaken the inner current. But when rightly awakened, Vishuddha becomes the holy portal of mantra, of sacred utterance, of silence saturated with presence, of the inner ear turning to the sound of Aum echoing within the spine. When the breath rises naturally to this center, you will feel it not as a pressure or force, but as a lightness, as though your body were beginning to dissolve into sound. And in that rising, when the attention is pure, when the lower centers have been transcended through surrender and not stimulation, you will find your gaze drawn upward, not outward into space, but inward into the point between the eyebrows, into the Ajna chakra, the sixth center, the seat of divine command, the Christ center, the lotus of indigo light, whose petals are not visible to physical eyes but appear in sacred stillness as the radiant star, the inner sun, the eye of intuition through which the soul perceives the world as God sees it without distortion, without separation, without fear. The ajna is not intuition in the modern sense of vague knowing or emotional instinct. It is the command post of the soul, where perception and will are fused into single-pointed awareness, where duality ends and unity begins, where the soul no longer reacts, but directs not from ego, but from alignment with the divine blueprint of truth. When you focus your gaze here in meditation, softly, without strain, without tension, you are not merely concentrating, you are entering a doorway. And when the energy of the breath, lifted by devotion and stillness, rises to meet that inner eye, it is as if the spine becomes a golden river, flowing upward into the light, and the soul begins to remember, not as concept but as experience, that it was never the body, never the emotion, never the thought, but always the light looking through the body, the silence behind the sound, the eternal self resting in God. You will see colors, yes rings of blue, golden halos, white stars, but do not fixate on them, for even these are thresholds, not destinations. The eye is not the goal, it is the gate. And when the soul bows here, when the breath enters this sanctuary with reverence and quiet awe, then the chakras below it still themselves in perfect submission, and the consciousness is drawn upward as though by an invisible magnet, not by force, but by surrender. And now we ascend to the final lotus, not to activate it, but to understand why it must never be chased, only received. And now, dear soul, as we rise from the luminous throne of the spiritual eye, we come to the highest blossom, the Sahasrara crown chakra, the 1,000-petaled lotus that rests above the physical head, but dwells within the etheric body as the sublime receptacle of divine grace. And I tell you with the utmost reverence, this is not a chakra to be activated, manipulated, or opened by will, by breath, or by force. It is not a portal to be stormed or a summit to be claimed, for the Sahasrara is not conquered, it is surrendered into. It does not respond to seeking, it receives only the presence of that which no longer seeks, the soul that has risen through purification and longing again, until all longing dissolves into holy stillness, and only God remains. You see, the illusion of the crown is the illusion of arrival, the belief that if I can reach this place, if I can stimulate this energy, if I can feel some profound sensation at the top of my head, then I will be enlightened, then I will be fulfilled, then I will become something higher than I am. But I tell you, beloved, there is no becoming in the light of the crown, only being. There is no grasping in the silence of God's presence, only melting. There is no final achievement, only eternal remembrance. The Sahasrara does not activate like the lower center sit blooms, and it does not bloom from pressure below, but from the natural culmination of inner stillness, the magnetic draw of soul awareness lifted entirely out of body identification and absorbed upward in the current of grace that has no beginning and no end. This crown, this lotus, is not a chakra in the same way as the other sit, is the silent altar above the altar, the receiver of divine light, the spiritual canopy under which the soul is wed once again to the infinite. It is not the cause of union, it is the consequence. It cannot be stormed through technique or pride. It opens only when the lower lights have been harmonized, when the spine has become a flute, hollowed of ego, when the breath has become prayer, and when the eye has become the star, through which all duality disappears. The Sahasrara does not ask, "What have you done?" It asks, "What have you surrendered?" And if the answer is everything, then the petals unfold, one by one, not in time but in eternity, and the light that was always above descends, not to crown a self, but to dissolve it. The Bhagavad Gita does not speak of the crown as a goal, it speaks of union. The yogi who draws his life force upward through the 6 centers and fixes his attention between the eyebrows reaches the highest state of realization. Even here, the sacred scriptures point not to the crown, but to the eye, for the crown is not the gate, it is the receiver. The kingdom of God is within, not above. And yet, when the soul rises into that silence beyond all structure, the crown becomes the place where the breath dissolves, where the ego dies its quiet death, where the light that has always waited finally enters, because the soul has finally become empty enough to receive. Let me give you this final image. The flower does not open because it tries. It opens when the root forgets itself, when the water is clear, when the sun rises, when the petals are ready to fall into the sky. So too with you. You do not reach the crown by chasing it. You arrive by forgetting the chase. You ascend not by effort, but by alignment, not by pushing upward, but by letting go of everything that pulls you down. And so we seal the ascent not with a burst of fireworks, not with a cry of victory, but with silence, with stillness, with awe. The journey is not over, for the soul is eternal, but the veil is lifting. And now, my beloved, having walked with me through the sacred ascent not of flesh, but of awareness, not of effort, but of surrender, we arrive not at a conclusion, but at a beginning, not at the edge of a destination, but at the doorway of your return to the divine remembrance from which all life flows. And I say to you with all the love of the infinite echoing through my soul, do not let this knowledge remain dormant in your intellect. Do not let this journey remain confined to the poetry of words or the enchantment of ideas. Make it breath, make it posture, make it your rising and your resting and your every hour in between. For the chakras are not here to be studied, but to be entered, not to be known, but to be lived. And the spine must become your altar, and the breath your incense, and the gaze your sacred vow. So now, sit with men not in pretense, but in presence as it upright, not as the body demanding attention, but as the soul remembering its throne, with the spine as the golden scepter of your inner kingdom, and the breath as the silent messenger of spirit moving through you, not by your will but by divine intelligence. And I ask you to breathe, not as you usually docile and unconscious, but to breathe as the temple breathes, as the infinite breathes, as one who has remembered what was hidden within them all along. Inhale now slowly from the base of the spine, feeling the life force rise through the sacred centers, like a river flowing upward into the sky. And as the current reaches the point between the eyebrows, pause not with tension, but with sacred attention, then exhale gently into the stillness above the crown, not as release, but as return. Do this again now. Inhale from the root to the brow. Hold in awareness. Exhale into Godan with each breath. Do not seek sensation, seek stillness. Do not chase energy. Become aligned with light. Do not imagine, remember. This breath is not your sit, is the infinite breathing through you. This body is not your sit, is the temple through which the soul serves its final vow. This spine is not your sit, is the ancient ladder given to every child of God to climb beyond the stars and into the formless brilliance of spirit itself. And now, say this with Mano, with your mouth only, but with your cells, with your stillness, with your gaze held at the spiritual eye, and with your whole being surrendered into the sacred sound of these truths. I do not chase energy, I align with light. I rise not by doing, but by remembering. My spine is the ladder, my breath is the prayer, my gaze is the doorway. Repeat it again and again, not to convince yourself, but to install the memory you lost, to resurrect the identity the world made you forget, to seal this journey not with pride, but with holy humility. For the path of the chakras is not a conquest, it is a covenant. A sacred vow between you and your Creator that you will no longer live from the outermost layer of existence, but from the center, from the flame, from the still point within where God awaits every breath of your returning. Every morning, before the body rises fully into the day, return, Haresit, breathe, align. Every evening, before the breath dissolves into sleep, return again, withdraw, ascend, remember. This is your true spiritual practice. Note, 1,000 techniques, but a single awareness flowing upward like light through the hollow reed of the spine, offered in devotion, crowned in stillness. Let the 7 lights become one flame. Let the 1,000 petals fold into the center. Let your identity dissolve into radiance. May your body become the temple. May your breath become the priest. May your gaze become the gate. And now we fall silent, not as absence, but as presence, not as ending, but as the beginning of the soul's eternal vow. And now, beloved soul, we enter the chamber beyond speech, the sanctuary beyond description, the space where the tongue falls silent and the breath becomes the only prayer needed, where the mind bows low and the heart opens, not as a feeling but as a field of stillness. And you, having climbed the inner ladder through devotion and breath and remembrance, stand not as a seeker but as the temple itself, not as a body chasing light but as the light remembering its own reflection. I ask nothing more of you now, except this, to let go of names, let go of forms, let go of striving, let go of your image of what you should become, and instead sit, breathe, and enter. Close your eyes. Let the spine be upright, like a golden staff connecting heaven and earth. Let the breath be calm, effortless, sacred. Let your gaze rest gently at the spiritual eye, and let your soul rest nowhere but in God. In this final space, there are no instructions. There is only surrender, no climbing, only falling inward. No thoughts to arrange, only awareness to receive. And now, with no movement, with no effort, I invite you to witness not with the outer eyes, but with the inner knowing as each sacred center vibrates once more within your spine, not as myth, but as living presence, root seed of God. Feel it, the beginning, the silent coil, the divine serpent sleeping in peace, no fear, only potential. Sacral river of will. A still stream, not flowing outward in desire, but inward in discipline. The water made pure again. Navel fire of discipline. The flame does not devour, it refines. It does not scream, it glows. It does not burn, it blesses. Heart mirror of stillness. Not a fluttering ache, not a swell of emotion, but a perfect glass in which the soul sees only God. Throat gate of sound. Om vibrates here, eternal and unborn, not to be spoken, but to be heard in silence. I command of soul. A radiant star, a golden halo, the place where all duality dissolves into perfect clarity. Crown light receiving itself. Not a goal, not a peak, only the flower of God unfolding, because there is nothing left to hold. Let this mantra now repeat within you, not from your lips, but from the eternal knowing in your spine. Whisper gently through the breath of the infinite. Each breath raises me, each thought aligns me, each day prepares me for miracles. Again, each breath raises me, each thought aligns me, each day prepares me for miracles. And again, each breath raises me, each thought aligns me, each day prepares me for miracles. Do not end this silence. Do not rise too quickly from this temple. Let it extend into your life. Let it follow you into your morning routine, into your quiet moments, into your decisions, into your gaze upon others. Let this inner rising become your vow. For the 7 are not steps, they are one light ascending. Remain here. Remain here. Remain here. Have you ever awoken in the early hours of dawn, your heart trembling, your eyes damp, your breath as though it had traveled through unseen valleys? You sit up in your bed, unable to name what you feel. Perhaps you have just seen a place you've never been, heard a voice without a mouth, held the hand of someone long since gone. And though it vanishes, that dream so fragile, so strange leaves a lingering presence, like the scent of incense after the flame has gone out. Beloved soul, what if I told you that these are not accidents of sleep, nor random firings of the mind? What if I told you that your soul is whispering to you in symbols, that your inner self is trying, gently and repeatedly, to awaken you even while the body rests? For each night, when your physical form lies still, the soul slips silently from its cage of flesh and bone and returns to subtler realms, just as the bird returns to its nest when the sun sets. In those sacred hours, you are no longer identified with name, occupation, or even form. You are again what you always were, a luminous current of consciousness, clothed in the astral body, moving through inner dimensions known not by logic, but by vibration. And as you pass through the spheres of subtle light and thought, your soul speaks. It speaks not in the tongue of your culture or intellect, but in the universal language of dreams, images, symbols, echoes, and scenes that rise and dissolve like waves upon the infinite sea. I have watched many souls ignore these messages, treating them as nothing more than shadows of digestion or echoes of yesterday's worries. But I say unto you, your dreams are not illusions. They are soul symbols. They are doors between the visible and the invisible, windows into karmic roots, astral memories, divine encounters, and the movements of your spiritual evolution. Do not let them go unnoticed, for while the world sleeps in forgetfulness, the awakened soul listens. And what it hears in the night can heal, purify, and liberate lifetimes of longing. So let us walk together now, not into sleep, but through it into the sacred interior where dreams are no longer dreams, but revelations in disguise. I will show you 7 ways your soul speaks when the world is silent. Listen closely. God is whispering to you, not with thunder, but with dream, not with command, but with symbol, not with fear, but with eternal love. Shall we begin? This life you are living, this breath you are drawing, this moment you are experiencing it may feel solid, heavy, unquestionable. But I tell you, this too is a dream. Not in the dismissive way the world uses the word, but in the highest, most sacred sense. Just as you awaken from a dream at night and laugh at the things that felt so real, so urgent, so painful one day, you shall awaken from this incarnation from this role you are playing, from this fleeting chapter of eternal existence, and you shall realize that your name, your country, your triumphs, and even your tragedies were passing shadows cast on the screen of divine consciousness. I have said it before and I say it again. This universe is a motion picture show projected by God on the screen of space and time. The body is the theater, the soul is the audience, and God is the light behind it all. The moment you realize this not as philosophy, but as direct perception, you begin to awaken, not just from nighttime sleep, but from the slumber of Maya itself. Do you not see? In your nightly dreams, you may experience 30 years of life compressed into a few minutes. You may grieve, rejoice, marry, fall, rise, and then awaken to realize that none of it happened yet it all happened. Where did it come from? Where did it go? Who was the thinker? And who was the doer? In the dream, you were convinced of your reality, of your struggle, of your identity. Upon awakening, all of it dissolved like mist before the sun. But what of this waking world, which also begins and ends with the opening and closing of the eyes? Does it not follow the same rhythm of appearance and disappearance? You sleep and awaken from dreams. You are born and awaken into the world. One day, you shall sleep again and awaken beyond the world. These are not different realities. They are concentric layers of the same dream projected from the invisible motion reel of consciousness. The ancient sages called this waking state the Jagrat dream, the dream of material life, and the sleeping state, the Svapna dream, the dream of the astral life. Both are dreams. Both are experiences of the soul through different instruments. Your waking world is made of atoms. Your dream world is made of thoughts. Yet both emerge from the mind, from the vibrations of consciousness. In the dream, you may meet people you do not know, travel to places you've never visited, speak words you've never heard, and yet all of them are born from your inner self. How can that be, if your mind is but the small brain behind your eyes? No, beloved, it is your deeper self, the soul, that creates, witnesses, and dissolves all these realms. And so, we come to the mystery. If both the waking state and the dream state are projections of the soul's awareness, what then is the true reality? I tell you, the only true reality is the still, silent, changeless spirit behind all forms. Just as the screen remains untouched by the pictures dancing across it, so the spirit remains untouched by the joys and sorrows of this world or the next. The goal of the yogi is not merely to awaken from the dream of the night, but from the greater illusion of separation and limitation that clouds the waking hours. To do so, you must become aware of the silent witness within the one who dreams the dream of life, but is not bound by it. Let this be your realization, that life is not a series of random events, but a sacred cinema. The soul, seated in the auditorium of God's temple, watches the play unfold. It laughs, it cries, but it does not forget that behind the actors and the script is the light, the divine projector. That alone is real. So too with your dreams. They are not to be dismissed as fantasy, nor idolized as prophecy, but revered as another screen upon which the soul may reflect, remember, and rise. And now that you know life itself is a dream, let us enter the next layer of that dream where the soul begins to speak in the night, not to distract, but to awaken you from within. Each night, as your eyelids descend like the gentle closing of a sacred gate, your soul performs a silent miracle. Released from the bondage of the waking body, it begins to loosen its identity from the dense vibrations of the flesh and subtly ascend, as a swan rises from the surface of a still lake into a higher sky, drifting through the corridors of the astral world in a body of light, wrapped not in blood and bone, but in thought and energy. And what it gathers there, what it sees, touches, recalls, and sometimes relives, returns with it not as memory but as dream. These dreams are not illusions, beloved. They are echoes of journeys, murmurings of karma, expressions of your hidden self, sacred letters sent across the border between worlds by the deepest part of you. They are not born of neurons and digestion, as material thinkers suppose, but of the soul's nocturnal dialogue with the greater reality behind the veil of form. When you lie down to sleep, your senses withdraw from the outer world. Sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell retreat to their source like turtles pulling into their shells. The physical brain, no longer animated by conscious attention, quiets its chatter. But the soul, the soul does not sleep. It cannot sleep, for it is eternally awake in God. Instead, it shifts its station of awareness into the astral body, the subtle sheath of light that remains unseen to mortal eyes, but is as real as the breeze that dances unseen among the leaves. In this subtle body, the soul moves not in the physical world of gravity and solidity, but in realms made of light and thought, where form is fluid, space is relative, and time bends around intention, like a river around a bend. In this inner landscape, the soul encounters karmic impressions, symbolic teachings, and sometimes the presence of divine beings. But because the soul must eventually return to the physical temple, these vast experiences are translated, sometimes distorted through the filter of the subconscious, into the language we call dreams. These dreams are not random. They are purposeful transmissions from the deeper strata of consciousness. Some are born from unresolved karma, lingering vibrations of emotion, desire, and fear, stored in the subtle spine like echoes in a deep well. Some are reflections of your spiritual condition, mirrors showing you not the face you wear by day, but the shape of your longings, attachments, and lessons. Others are visitations, brief but luminous encounters with saints, departed loved ones, or even the infinite spirit appearing through symbol, vision, or voice. And still others are cleansing dreams, where your soul, tired of repression or forgetfulness, begins to purify itself by dramatizing what you cannot yet feel fully while awake. Imagine for a moment that your mind is a vast canvas, and your soul, each night, takes up the brush. It paints with colors of memory, vibration, desire, and divinity. Sometimes the painting is chaotic, like a storm seen through stained glass. Sometimes it is serene, like the moonlight on still water. But always, it speaks. The question is not whether the soul communicates, but whether the mind has become quiet enough, humble enough, still enough to listen without distortion. And herein lies the sacred art of dream understanding, not to dissect the dream with logic, but to receive it with reverence. The astral world, where most dreams originate, is a real realm, a world of color, more vivid than this one, of sound more harmonious, of movement more fluid. It is the world you shall enter after death, and the world you enter each night, if only briefly. It is the realm of your true home, the place where thoughts take shape instantly, where saints walk without feet, and where God can appear as light, or music, or form. But your awareness of that world depends on your purity, your devotion, and your stillness. If your inner world is crowded with noise and emotion, the soul's messages return to you as jumbled scenes and strange symbols. But if your inner sky is quiet, then even a single dream can become a scripture, a revelation, a moment of awakening that changes your course forever. I say to you now, do not dismiss your dreams. Do not roll over and forget them as you chase the urgency of morning. For some dreams are not dreams at all. They are the soul remembering its home. They are messages carried across dimensions, fragments of forgotten lifetimes, or letters from the divine written not in ink, but in vibration. Let your pillow become your altar. Let the night become your temple, and let your dreams become the sacred book your soul reads each night to remember what it truly is. And now, having understood why the soul dreams, let us begin to decode the 7 sacred categories through which your higher self is speaking. These are not merely dreams. They are steps on the ladder of awakening. These are the dreams that carry no fragrance of heaven, no whisper from beyond, no echo from the halls of the soul, but they are not to be scorned or cast aside. They are the surface reflections of the daily mind, the mirror images of what you have thought, felt, or feared in the hours when your eyes were open and your hands were busy. In these dreams, the subconscious plays back the film of your waking life, as if to ask, is this what you want to carry into tomorrow? You might dream of walking through your office again, or of speaking with someone you just saw, or reliving an argument you hoped had already dissolved. The details may shift, and the logic may fragment, but the emotion remains is your own restlessness reprojected onto the inner screen. And yet, though these dreams arise from the clutter of the mind and not from the depths of the soul, they are not meaningless, for even static has a frequency. If the same symbols return night after night, a flooded room, a lost bag, a falling elevator, is not random. It is your inner being trying to catch your attention through repetition. The ego lives in avoidance, but the soul loves to reflect. These dreams, though mundane, are the fingerprints of your inner turbulence. Like footprints in wet sand, they show you where you've been. They may not tell you who you are, but they will surely show you where your thoughts are still caught still, orbiting around desire, fear, or unresolved memory. Think of these dreams as smoke and not the fire, but the sign that something still burns within. Yogananda taught that even the shallowest dreams serve a function. They clear the mind's immediate impressions so that deeper realities may rise. Just as a pond must let its surface ripples settle before it can reflect the stars, your subconscious must empty its daily burdens before divine symbols can appear. So do not resent these dreams, nor chase them for answers. Simply notice them, acknowledge them, and gently let them pass, knowing they are the veil before the vision, the curtain before the play begins. Now we descend a little deeper into the subterranean chambers of the self, where emotion becomes vibration and karma becomes movement. In these dreams, something is being burned away not by the intellect, not by conscious choice, but by the soul's own inner fire, which longs for purification even while the ego clings to retention. These dreams are not gentle. They may shake you, drench you in emotion, pull you through scenes of chaos, rage, weeping, or fear. You may wake up trembling, disoriented, or even ashamed. But do not fear these dreams. They are not punishments, they are surgeries. In purging dreams, the astral body releases psychic toxins the way the physical body might sweat out fever. A long-suppressed grief, a repressed longing, a childhood wound, a karmic impression from another life, these energies cannot remain buried forever. They press against the soul's light like dark clouds pressing against the sun. And so in sleep, when your conscious resistance is weakened, the soul takes the opportunity to purge. You may dream of screaming, of fighting someone, of being chased or falling endlessly. You may witness exaggerated versions of your own faults. But again, beloved, do not fear this. It is not what you are, it is what you are releasing. Yogananda taught that many of our deepest karmas are not transmuted through external action, but through inner vibratory release. A karmic seed may be burned in an astral fire long before it would have bloomed into outer suffering. The soul is wise. It often chooses to suffer in symbolic dreams, what it does not wish to suffer in waking life. So when you wake from such a dream, instead of asking, "Why did I dream this?" ask, "What have I let go of?" And if you can, thank your soul. It has done work while you were asleep that the waking self would have resisted for decades. Among the rarest but most unforgettable of all dreams are those that come as crystal, as certainty, as knowing unclouded by fear or emotion. These are not murky, illogical, or forgettable. They are as clear as morning light. In such dreams, something is shown not invented by the mind, not recycled from memory, but revealed by a higher law. You may see an event, a place, a person, something yet to come and feel an unmistakable vibration of truth around it. These dreams do not shout, they whisper, but their whisper is the voice of destiny. Yogananda often spoke of such dreams, visions of coming events, warnings given to those who were spiritually receptive, moments when the soul peers slightly beyond the veil and sees what lies ahead not in rigid fate, but in energetic probability. These are karmic glimpses, grace given so that you may prepare, pivot, or pray. And while some of these dreams predict trials, others reveal blessings, a soul you will meet, a place you are destined to go, a purpose that has not yet fully awakened. To discern these dreams from ordinary illusions, notice how they feel. They will come with silence, not chaos, peace, not fear. They will leave a fragrance of meaning behind, even if you cannot fully understand them yet. Often they are accompanied by symbols like stares, letters, a figure of wisdom. The feeling they leave in your heart will be calm, knowing, not excitement or confusion. And most importantly, they do not inflate the ego. They call the soul. When such a dream arrives, do not rush to act. Pray first. Ask for inner confirmation. Write it down. Let it steep in the chamber of your heart. And when the outer events align, you will remember that it was shown long before it appeared. Because time, beloved, is only a curtain, and the soul sees through it when God allows. There is a type of dream that is not a dream at all. Not in the way the world understands dreams. These are not fabrications of the subconscious mind, not mere rearrangements of daily events or internal desires, but are, in truth, soul journeys, conscious or semi-conscious voyages taken by the subtle astral body when it is no longer confined by the gross prison of flesh. Every night, when the body sleeps, the soul retreats inward, drawing its awareness away from the senses, away from the outer stage of Maya, and begins its return to subtler dimensions, just as a turtle withdraws into its shell, not to disappear, but to become aware of an inner kingdom invisible to the outward gaze. And on some nights, if your vibrations are high, your heart surrendered, and your awareness light, you may find yourself not simply dreaming, but moving through vast luminous corridors, floating through astral landscapes, entering temples of light, or speaking with beings who do not belong to this world, but to the higher octaves of existence. These are the dreams where you fly not with wings of flesh, but with the intention of spirit, where you pass through walls not because you are a ghost, but because matter has ceased to obstruct you, where you feel lighter, freer, awake within the dream itself. Often, the scenery in these dreams is radiant, more vivid than waking life, bathed in colors not seen by earthly eyes, surrounded by silence that sings and light that breathes. You may find yourself walking through golden halls, attending spiritual gatherings in invisible monasteries, or even sitting before a figure of divine wisdom who looks upon you not with judgment but with unending remembrance. You may meet loved ones who have passed on not in memory, but in presence, and you may awaken weeping, not from sadness but from the overwhelming joy of reunion that transcends time and form. Yogananda taught that the astral world is not a fantasy but a subtler realm of God's creation, filled with wondrous vibrational realiticities, gardens, temples, oceans of light inhabited by countless beings who are working out their karma, learning, praying, evolving toward final union with spirit. And your soul, being not bound to this body, has access to this world each night, though you rarely remember it. But sometimes, just sometimes, the veils part slightly, and you bring back the memory not as a complete movie but as a taste, a residue, a glowing ember that warms your chest long after you wake. To recognize such a dream, observe how it feels. Were you lucid? Did the experience have a gravity beyond the ordinary? Did you awaken with peace, as if your burdens had been lifted, your purpose reaffirmed, or your faith revived? These are the signs, and though such experiences cannot be forced, they can be invited. Keep your life pure. Keep your intentions devotional. Practice inner stillness before sleep. Say to God, "If it be thy will, take me into thy higher realms tonight. Let me remember who I am behind this face and form." And one night, the door will open, and you will not simply dream, you will journey. There comes a dream, unbidden and unforgettable, in which you find yourself wearing a body not your own, speaking a language you've never studied, moving through cities you have never visited in this incarnation, loving people whose names feel like distant songs on the wind. And yet when you wake, you do not feel confused. You feel haunted, moved, as if some deeper layer of your being was just now stirred from a 1,000-year slumber. These are not ordinary dreams, nor are they the whims of an overactive imagination. These are glimpses, soul fragments, karmic echoes rising through the still waters of subconscious memory to touch the surface of your awareness, saying, "You have lived before. You have walked these roads. You have worn this face." Yogananda affirmed again and again that the soul is ancient, older than stone, older than star sen, that each lifetime is but a chapter in the soul's journey toward perfection. The memories of those lives are not gone. They are simply sealed within the soul's causal blueprint, stored in vibrational patterns buried deep within the spine, and occasionally, whether in meditation, trauma, love, or sleep, they rise. Not to entertain, but to remind, to heal, to balance. Past life dreams are often emotionally charged, filled with love, grief, terror, or awe that feels disproportionate to the symbols in the dream. You may dream of standing on a battlefield, or watching a loved one die, or wandering as a monk through mist-covered mountains, or sailing a ship into foreign waters. And though your waking mind cannot rationally connect these scenes to your current life, your soul recognizes them. The heart remembers what the brain cannot. These dreams do not arrive randomly. They come when the karmic cycle of a past deed or unfinished bond is ready to be understood or released. Yogananda himself shared memories of past incarnations as a yogi in the Himalayas, as a warrior, as a student of Kristan taught that remembering is not an end, but a responsibility. If such a dream arises for you, do not seek more like it for the sake of fascination. Instead ask, what lesson does this carry? What unfinished thread seeks closure? What gift or burden do I need to integrate now? Use the dream as a compass not to return to the past, but to liberate yourself from it. And remember, your soul is not the person you once were. It is the divine spark that wore those forms like garments. You are not a prisoner of those lives. You are the one who passed through them, gathering experience, sowing karma, and now awakening to the eternal thread behind them all. Welcome the memory, but walk forward in freedom. There are some nights, blessed, luminous nights, when the veil between this world and the next becomes so thin, so translucent, that it dissolves entirely, and the soul, freed from the dense fog of ego and illusion, comes face to face with a presence so overwhelming, so familiar, so filled with light and love and ancient remembrance, that the dreamer awakens weeping, not from sadness, but from the unbearable sweetness of having touched God. These dreams are not dreams in the way men speak of dreams. They are visions, communions, sacred moments of contact between the finite and the infinite. In such a dream, you may see the face of your guru glowing with eternal compassion, or the eyes of Divine Mother filled with boundless love. Or perhaps you are standing before Christ, Krishna, or a formless presence of radiant golden light that speaks without words and touches without hands, and yet leaves you changed forever. These are not mere symbolic dreams, these are visitations. They often come during times of great inner transformation or outer crisis, when the soul is broken open by suffering or yearning and becomes, even for a moment, receptive to the vibration of spirit. In the language of mystics, this is known as the descent of grace, the moment when God comes uninvited but always welcomed, not as a doctrine or belief, but as an undeniable presence. Yogananda taught that in moments of deep devotion, prayer, or surrender, the soul sends out a vibrational callan, inaudible yearning, and the divine responds, not always through miracles of the outer world, but often through the dream state where the ego is quieted and the soul can hear. In such dreams, you may feel an overwhelming sense of being held, healed, known. The air feels different. The light is not of this world. Time stands still. Sometimes, no words are spoken, and yet entire volumes of truth are conveyed in a single gaze. Other times, you may hear a voice a voice from without, but a voice rising from within that sounds like the echo of your own deepest self speaking in the accent of the eternal. And when you awaken, you may find your pillow wet with tears, your chest burning with peace, your life subtly or even dramatically shifted. These are not dreams to interpret, but to cherish. Not puzzles to solve, but holy waters to drink slowly and reverently. Divine visitation dreams are also deeply personal. What appears as Christ to one may appear as Krishna to another, or as a luminous ancestor, or a robed saint, or even a simple light that speaks nothing and yet says everything. For the divine comes in the form most suited to awaken your heart. And when such a dream occurs, know that it is not your merit that earned it, but your soul's ripeness. It is grace pure, unearned, and transformative. Yogananda often said that one moment of true contact with God, even in a dream, can burn away years of karma and awaken the soul from its long slumber. So if such a dream has ever touched you, return to it often. Meditate upon it. Do not reduce it to analysis. It was real. More real, perhaps, than this world of noise and name and form. And if you have not yet had such a dream, prepare for it not by waiting passively, but by living actively in love, devotion, purity, and silence. For the divine visits those whose hearts are tuned to its vibration. And when it comes, even once, you will never again be the same. Not all dreams are filled with light. Not all night visions bring peace. There are dreams that disturb, that unsettle, that shake us awake in the middle of the night with pounding heart and cold sweat, and a feeling of having just escaped some unseen danger. These are the nightmares, the dark, confusing, sometimes terrifying journeys through shadowlands of the subconscious, filled with symbols of fear, chaos, pursuit, or helplessness. And while the world often dismisses such dreams as the random discharges of the anxious mind, Yogananda taught that even nightmares can carry spiritual meaning. They may be warnings, they may be karmic echoes, or they may simply be the astral body attempting to shake loose the chains of suppressed tendencies and unresolved pain. To understand a nightmare through the lens of the soul, we must first abandon the idea that discomfort is always to be avoided. Sometimes the soul brings up fear not to harm you, but to heal you. Nightmares may arise when karmic energy is surfacing, when unacknowledged desires or traumas from this life or another press against the boundary of your waking mind and seek release. They may reflect lower astral turbulence dark entities or energies drawn to the residue of your unprocessed emotion. Or, more importantly, they may be sacred messages, trying in dramatic form to get your attention, to warn you of a path, a person, a pattern that must be addressed before it manifests harm in the outer world. In the astral realm, form is fluid emotion, becomes landscape, thought becomes action, intention becomes architecture. And so, a nightmare may appear as a monster, but what you are truly seeing is not a demon from without, but an untransformed fear within. It may appear as falling, but it reflects a loss of spiritual grounding. It may appear as being chased, but in truth, you are fleeing some part of yourself that begs integration. Yogananda advised that one of the most powerful spiritual acts a soul can perform is to become lucid in a dream and turn to face what chases it. In doing so, you take back your power, not just in the dream world, but in your inner life. If you experience recurring nightmares, do not merely avoid sleep or attempt to forget. Instead, bring the light of God into your sleep. Pray before bed. Visualize divine light surrounding your aura. Ask the masters to walk with you into your dream world. And if you awaken from a nightmare, do not panic. Sit in stillness. Ask, what was this trying to show me? Write it down, meditate, and then speak to God. Let this fear dissolve in thy light. Let me not run from shadow, but awaken in truth. Because ultimately, even nightmares are teachers. And in the spiritual life, no lesson is wasted when met with awareness. Even the darkest dream can become the gateway to the brightest dawn. We walk through it not with fear, but with the lamp of the soul held high and the name of God on our lips. To truly receive what the soul is offering through dreams, one must first learn not to merely observe but to listen, to feel, to attune. Dreams are not meant to be dissected like the parts of a machine. For they are not mechanical events, they are living scriptures of the subconscious and superconscious mind, written in the ink of symbol and emotion, flowing from the hidden rivers of karma, memory, intuition, and divine guidance. And just as a sacred text cannot be grasped by the intellect alone but must be read with the heart, so too must your dreams be understood not by analysis but by vibration. Yogananda often reminded his disciples, feel the dream's vibration, not just its plot. For the outer story, whether it is flying through ancient temples, falling into darkness, or speaking with a radiant saintess but the husk, the real nourishment lies in the feeling, tone, the spiritual residue that lingers like incense in the breath of dawn. It is there, in the silent mood left behind, that the true meaning whispers its name. The language of the soul is not English, Hindi, or any spoken tongue. It is symbol, archetype, energy. A staircase in your dream is not just architecture. It is spiritual ascent, an inner invitation to rise. A flood is not simply water, it is the unconscious breaking through, a tide of emotions seeking release or rebirth. Fire may mean destruction on the surface, but in spiritual truth, it is often purification burning away old tendencies, igniting new clarity. A locked door may not mean you are trapped, but that you are being asked to knock more deeply, to find the right vibration to enter. And a light in the distance may not simply be hope, it may be the actual presence of God calling to you in image form. To begin hearing these symbols, you must cultivate the silence in which they speak. Noise dulls the soul's antennae. Constant input screens, music, voices, worry clogs, the subtle channels that receive divine impressions. Therefore, it is essential to build a lifestyle of inner quietude. Before sleep, take time to withdraw from the senses. Dim the lights, sit in stillness, close the eyes, and withdraw the energy from the outer world into the spine. Offer a prayer, not a prayer of begging, but of surrender. Beloved, speak to me tonight in the language of thy light. Let my soul remember what it came to learn. Let my dreams carry thy touch. Then, as you lie down, breathe deeply not just into the lungs, but into the heart and hold the feeling of openness. Say inwardly, tonight, I listen. In this receptive state, the dreams that arise will carry greater clarity, for the conscious mind will not resist or reinterpret them with its noise. Upon waking, do not reach for the phone, the to-do list, the distractions of Maya. Instead, remain in bed for a few sacred minutes. Close the eyes again, feel back into the night. What images linger? What feelings remain? Often, a dream vanishes not because it was insignificant, but because the waking mind tramples it with activity. To honor the message of the soul, create a space for it. Keep a dream journal by your bedside, not to analyze in the worldly sense, but to document in devotion. Write what you remember and ask your higher self to reveal more. Over time, patterns will emerge not just of what you dream, but of how God is speaking to you through symbols. You will begin to recognize divine fingerprints in what once seemed random. And as you become fluent in this symbolic language, dreams will shift. They will become more vibrant, more instructional, more soul-directed, because the giver of the message will know the listener is awake. In this way, the night becomes not just rest but revelation. Sleep becomes not just unconsciousness but communion. The dream world, which once seemed murky or meaningless, begins to shimmer with signs, lessons, and love, as if the entire cosmos were writing to you each night in stars and silence. And you awake, not only rested but remembered. There is a subtle danger in entering the realm of dreams, unprepared, not because dreams themselves are treacherous, but because the ego, ever eager to seize control, to assign meanings, to wear spiritual insight as a crown, can quickly turn the sacred mirror of the soul into a distorted lens of confusion, fantasy, and delusion. When we interpret dreams through the lower mind, through desire, fear, ego attachment, or intellectual speculation, we do not decode them, we deform them. A divine warning becomes a personal insult. A karmic lesson is mistaken for a prophecy of doom. A soul's cry for healing is twisted into blame toward another. And in this way, what was once a luminous message wrapped in symbol becomes a tangled knot of anxiety and error. Yogananda warned against this very thing, not because dreams are unimportant, but because they are too important to be handled by the ego's careless hands. Dreams, he said, are not toys for the intellect. They are sacred scriptures of the soul, written in the language of vibration. Imagine, if you will, a man who receives a dream of a great wave crashing over his home. He awakens in fear, convinced disaster is coming. He becomes obsessed with flood insurance, worries endlessly, and lives in fear for years, yet the wave never arrives. What he does not realize is that the dream was not about water at all. It was about his emotions, his spiritual resistance to change, the cleansing that his soul was crying out for. Had he been still, had he meditated on the feeling rather than the image, he would have understood that the dream was a mercy, not a threat. And yet, because he interpreted through fear, he invited more fear. This is the danger not of the dream itself, but of misinterpretation through the filter of Maya. The ego longs to possess meaning. It wants to say, this dream means I am special. That dream means she is wrong. This image proves I will fail. That symbol shows I will succeed. But the soul speaks not in such binary terms. It whispers truth through paradox, teaches through humility, reveals through silence. When you rush to interpret a dream with the analytical mind, you close the door on the deeper vibration that was meant to be felt, not dissected. Just as the petals of a flower cannot be opened by force without destroying its beauty, so too the meaning of a true dream cannot be pried open by logicit, must be warmed into revelation by stillness and devotion. Yogananda often shared the story of a disciple who had a recurring dream of falling into darkness. The disciple was disturbed and began to believe he was spiritually failing. But the master, looking into the man's soul, smiled and said, "No, my child, the dream is not about descent, it is about release. You are falling but into surrender." The student wept, not out of fear, but out of joy, for now he understood what the dream had always meant. This is the power of right attunement, not to change the dream, but to perceive it rightly. To avoid the trap of misinterpretation, one must cultivate spiritual neutrality. Do not chase good dreams or run from bad ones. Do not assume every appearance of your teacher is literal, nor every fear symbolic. Instead, ask this: what is the vibration of this dream? Does it leave me uplifted, humbled, open, still? If the answer is yes, then it has served your soul. If it leaves you agitated, inflated, or confused, then return to silence. Meditate. Let the image dissolve in the light of God and ask, what is the highest truth here? Often, it will not come in words. It will come in a shift of energy, a quiet knowing, a sudden peace. That is how the soul speaks. Above all, treat the dream world with reverence. Do not parade your dreams before others seeking approval. Do not base great life decisions on untested visions. And never assume that because you dreamed of divinity, you are yet divine. Dreams are invitations, not confirmations. They are signposts, not destinations. To walk the path of dream interpretation rightly is to walk with humility, silence, devotion, and the unshakable awareness that every symbol, every figure, every story you encounter in sleep is but a reflection of your own unfolding consciousness, filtered through karmic memory, inner longing, and the infinite creativity of God. When you carry that reverence into the dream world, the noise subsides, the false fades, and what remains is the pure silver thread of divine communication, unmistakable, unshakable, and utterly transforming. The sacred potential of dreams is not merely to reveal, but to awaken, to initiate the soul into deeper communion with its origin, its karma, its destiny, and its beloved. Just as temples are not built overnight but brick by sacred brick, so too is the inner temple of dream awareness constructed by devotional discipline, stillness, and sincerity. Dreams are not isolated incidents, they are threads in the greater tapestry of your soul's unfolding, and when approached with reverence, they cease to be fleeting illusions and become nightly sacraments, spiritual classrooms in which the soul studies in silence while the body sleeps. To begin the practice of spiritual awakening through dreams, one must first purify the approach. Do not treat your dreams as entertainment, nor as puzzles to be solved with cleverness, but as holy texts composed by your own higher self. As you prepare for sleep, treat your bedroom as a sanctuary. Dim the lights not just to rest the eyes, but to quiet the senses. Let the final sound you hear be not a screen's glow or the noise of the world, but a sacred chant, a whispered prayer, a few breaths laden with yearning. Sit on your bed, spine straight, eyes half closed, and bring the attention inward, not to the worries of the day, not to what you want to dream, but to the heart, to the place in the chest where the soul hums behind every heartbeat. Inhale slowly, exhale completely, and speak silently or aloud this prayer. Divine Mother, I offer this sleep to Thee. Let not my dreams be chaos or confusion. Let them be Thy temple, Thy guidance, Thy whisper of remembrance. And say it not with formality, but with fervor. Let the words burn with sincerity. If you practice Kriya Yoga or other deep meditative techniques, give a few minutes of breath awareness before lying down. Let the breath become the bridge between waking and dreaming, the conduit through which the soul prepares for departure. The more interiorized your consciousness becomes before sleep, the more refined and instructive your dreams shall be. Do not be surprised if, with regular practice, you begin to feel a subtle shift as you drift into sleep, pulling upward in the spine, a sensation of floating, of rising through subtle realms. This is not imagination. It is your soul stepping gently out of its earthly garment, as it does each night, whether you remember it or not. With spiritual preparation, you begin to remember. When you awaken, remain still. Do not leap into movement. The bridge between the dream and the waking world is made of silence. In every step you take away from stillness is a step away from memory. Keep your eyes closed for a moment and ask, where was I? Sometimes it is an image that arises. Sometimes it is a feeling of vibration, a mood, a wordless understanding. Do not dismiss it. That is your doorway. Keep a journal beside your bed, not to become a scholar of dreams, but a disciple of the soul. Record what you remember, even if it is fragmented, strange, or unclear. Over time, you will see that these fragments are like stars isolated until you connect them into constellations. And then you will perceive the pattern, the path, the teaching that was always there. Another sacred practice is dream incubation. If there is a question weighing on your heart, a karmic knot that remains unloosened, or a decision that clouds your clarity, offer it to the divine before sleep. Write it on paper, hold it to your chest, and pray, "Beloved, if it be thy will, answer me in my dreams. Guide me as thou guided the prophets in their visions. Let my sleep be not unconsciousness, but communion." Often the answer will not be a direct word or image, but a shift in feeling, a new perspective, a release of fear that prepares the mind for spiritual direction. This is how dreams do their deepest work, not by changing the outer world, but by transforming your inner response. Be patient. Dream practice is not for the curious, it is for the sincere. In the beginning, dreams may seem random, or you may not remember them at all. Do not judge. The soul's language is ancient and subtle, and it reveals itself only to those who knock in silence, who wait with devotion, who listen not just with the ear, but with the entire being. Over time, you will see the dreams grow in light. You will feel the presence of your guru, of departed souls, of sacred places you've never seen in this life but recognize as home. You will begin to discern which dreams are karmic, which are prophetic, which are divine. And eventually, you may even experience lucidity not in the common sense of controlling the dream, but in the sacred sense of realizing you are dreaming while dreaming. And in that realization, remembering your true nature. I am not this body, I am not this thought, I am the soul, a child of the infinite. In such moments, the veil between worlds grows thin. Dreams cease to be dreams. They become thresholds, doors into the astral and causal realms. And you, no longer merely a sleeper, become a traveler, a witness, a disciple of the eternal. This is the promise of sacred dream practice, that one day, in the hush of night, you shall meet your God not as an idea, not as a belief, but as a presence that walks with you through the chambers of sleep and whispers into your soul, "Welcome home." And now, beloved soul, as the day draws its curtain and you stand upon the threshold of sleep, I invite you not to see the night as a void to fall into, nor the dreams to come as accidents of memory, but to regard this sacred descent into darkness as a pilgrimage into the inner sanctum of the infinite. For the night is not merely the absence of day, it is the womb of God. It is within this divine stillness, this hallowed space between breaths, that the soul is most easily remembered, most gently met, and most powerfully restored. Just as the temple doors close to the outer world that the devotee might commune with the inner light, so too does sleep close your eyes not to blind you, but to help you see without distraction, to guide you beyond the illusions of flesh and time, and into the unspoken presence that has walked beside you since before birth, and shall carry you long beyond death. Let us now enter that temple together, not with haste, not with effort, but with reverent surrender. Sit at the altar of your heart. Place your attention like a flower before the feet of the infinite. Feel the breath move through your body, not as a function, but as a prayer. Let each inhalation draw in the light of divine remembrance, and let each exhalation release the burdens of the day, the roles you played, the names you've answered to, the wounds you've held like thorns in your side. Let them all dissolve in this holy breath, and whisper to the beloved with the innocence of a child who knows no barrier between longing and union. I am thine. I sleep not in forgetfulness, but in thee. And as you lay your head upon the pillow, do so as one laying their head in the lap of the Divine Mother. Feel her hands brushing your hair. Feel her gaze upon your soul. Feel the quiet power of her protection as it forms a radiant shield around your bed. This is not imagination, it is remembrance. It is the soul's rightful recognition that God is not found in the clouds or the heavens above, but in the silence behind your heartbeat, the stillness beneath your breath, the spaciousness into which your thoughts dissolve as you prepare for sleep. Say softly to yourself, "This night is not ordinary. This night is sacred. I walk not into dreams, I walk into communion." And let this affirmation echo not from your lips alone, but from every cell, every vibration of your being. Let your body become a listening temple, your breath a swinging censer of incense, your thoughts offerings of devotion placed at the feet of the infinite. The mind will try to wander, it always does. But when it does, bring it back with tenderness, not with tension. Whisper once again, I am thine. That one phrase, spoken with love, has the power to quiet centuries of restlessness, to untie knots of karma wrapped in your spine, to open channels of divine light through which healing, wisdom, and guidance may enter not only your dreams, but your waking life as well. And when sleep finally comes, do not resist it. Flow with it, as a river flows to the sea, knowing that the one who dreams the stars also dreams within you. Let each heartbeat be a bell. Let each breath be a candle. Let each dream be a verse in the scripture your soul writes each night in the language of eternity. For you are not merely a dreamer, beloved, you are the dreamer within the dreamer. You are the witness of all forms, the child of the infinite light, temporarily clothed in this fragile garment of flesh. Even now, as your body lies down, your soul rises. It rises not in confusion, but in celebration. It rises to meet its teacher, its friend, its eternal companion. And there, in that vast sky of silence, you shall remember not just what the dream means, but who you truly are. So I bless you now. I bless your sleep, that it may not be unconsciousness, but communion. I bless your dreams, that they may not confuse, but reveal. I bless your soul, that it may walk with clarity through the gardens of night and return with fruits of wisdom at dawn. And I bless your heart, that it may always remain open to the divine whisper within, whether it comes in waking or in sleep. Say these words with me, softly, slowly, with reverence. I welcome the night as a temple. I listen with soul ears. Tonight, God shall whisper, and I shall remember. Now close your eyes, dear one, not to shut the world away, but to open yourself to the world within. Drift gently, surrender deeply. And know this, if your devotion be sincere, if your longing be pure, one night, perhaps this very night, you shall fall asleep in your body and awaken in your soul. And from that dream you shall never wish to return. Om Shanti, Om Peace, Om Light. God be with you now, in dreams and forever. The day you hear this, your soul will no longer sleep. I do not speak these words lightly, nor do I scatter them like leaves in the wind. I speak them because the moment has come in which destiny and readiness meet, and in that sacred meeting, something ancient within you stirs and begins to awaken. Have you not felt, my friend, that life has been a series of repetitions, of days that roll upon one another like endless waves upon a weary shore? Yet hidden behind this monotony is the whisper of eternity, waiting for the instant when the soul finally opens its inner ear. That instant, beloved one, is now. This is why I say, the day you hear this message, your life will change forever. It is not because of the sound of my voice, nor the arrangement of these words, but because God Himself has chosen this hour to pierce the veil of forgetfulness and rouse the sleeping immortal within you. Imagine a lightning bolt splitting a night sky. For long hours you walked under clouds, convinced that darkness was absolute, forgetting the stars, doubting the sun. Suddenly, one flash rips the heavens apart, and in that fierce illumination, you see not only the sky but also the landscape, the road, the hidden rivers glistening with light. Such is the shock of truth when the soul is ready. Until then, prayers seemed unanswered, scriptures seemed veiled, meditation felt dry. But when the bolt of divine remembrance strikes, the very air shivers, and you know, I am not the same as I was a moment ago. That is the alarm I sound in you now. Why is it today and not yesterday? Why is it this message and not another? Because God's call does not move by the clock of man, but by the ripening of the soul. Karma, like a fruit upon a tree, needs its hour of sweetness before it falls into the hand of the gardener. You may have heard 1,000 sermons, read 100 books, watched many suns rise and fall without change, and yet suddenly, without warning, one word pierces through like an arrow of light. Today is such a day. The pain you endured, the loneliness you carried, the questions you whispered in silence, all these have been preparing you to hear this very moment. Do not think it accident. In God's universe, there are no accidents. What seems like chance is often divine choreography. The restless search that led you here, the longing that kept your heart from sleep, the dissatisfaction with mere pleasures of the world, all these have been the footsteps of your soul walking toward this encounter. Just as a thirsty traveler is guided by the hidden pull of an unseen spring, so have you been drawn here by the magnetic current of God's will. That is why I say, awaken now, for the secret you are about to hear has already been written in your heart, waiting only for recognition. Stay with me, child of eternity. Do not drift away into the trivial noise of the world, for the treasure chest is about to be opened. This universe secret is not a novelty, nor a clever idea meant to entertain the mind. It is the timeless truth that explains why your life has felt incomplete and how it may now become whole. You will hear in these words not something new, but something older than creation itself, something that resonates as if you have always known it, because indeed you have. The soul never forgets, it only sleeps. And today, the bell of eternity rings in your heart, declaring, awake, arise, and claim your inheritance as a child of God. Why does the soul cry out and yet so often feel unheard? Why have your prayers, whispered with trembling lips or shouted in desperate nights, seem to echo back only as silence? Why, after all your seeking, all your efforts at meditation, all your reading of holy words, do you still feel as though the heavens are locked in your heart unanswered? Beloved, I tell you with compassion, it is not because God is deaf, nor because he is indifferent, nor because you are unworthy. It is because there is a law woven into the fabric of creation. The seed must be buried long enough before the sprout can break the soil, and the cry of the soul must ripen into sincerity, depth, and persistence before the divine responds with the thunder of revelation. The illusion you suffer under is the illusion of delay, but in truth there is no delay. There is only readiness. The timing you call waiting is in reality the slow unfolding of your own soul toward its destined flowering. Think of the child in the womb. For 9 long months there is growth unseen, preparation hidden from the eyes of the world. If the mother should say after the first month, "Where is my child? Why has he not yet appeared?" we would smile at her impatience, for we know there is no delay, only the natural ripening of life. So it is with your inner cries. Each sigh, each yearning, each tear, each moment of hunger for truth is shaping you in the hidden silence of the soul's womb. And when the hour comes, when the inner ear is cleansed of distraction, when the heart has exhausted every substitute and cannot bear another illusion, then suddenly the voice of God, long thought absent, is heard more intimately than the sound of your own breath. But here is the great suffering of man. He mistakes silence for absence and waiting for abandonment. He kneels to pray, and when no thunder shakes the sky, he concludes that God has forgotten. He meditates, and when no vision of light bursts open, he believes the soul is barren. This is the lie of Maya, the cruel hypnosis that whispers, "Nothing is happening." In truth, everything is happening. Every quiet prayer is a chisel, striking the stone of your heart, shaping it into a vessel that can hold the infinite. Every restless night of longing is loosening the soil around the seed. Every disappointment in the world is God removing your taste for shadows so that only his sunlight will satisfy you. Have you not noticed, dear one, that the things which once satisfied you no longer do? The entertainments of the senses lose their luster. The praise of men no longer fills the hollow. The comforts you once clung to now feel like empty shells. This is not failure. This is God's mercy. He strips away the substitutes so that your hunger for the real cannot be distracted. That hunger itself is the proof of his presence, for he alone planted it in you. Do you think your yearning is self-made? No, it is the echo of his call, the pull of his love, drawing you back like a tide pulling water toward the ocean. Your longing is the sign that he has already chosen you. So I tell you, reflect deeply now. Through all your life, from childhood's first questions to adulthood's hidden tears, has there not been a subtle thread of yearning, a persistent whisper saying, "There must be more"? This is the cry of the soul, unquenched by time, unchanged by circumstance. You may have tried to drown it with noise, or bury it with tasks, or cover it with the distractions of ambition and desire. But like a buried spring, it always finds a way to seep back into your awareness. That cry is holy. Do not despise it, and do not mistake its persistence for God's neglect. It is the surest sign that your soul is alive, that it remembers its lost home, and that it will never stop calling until the beloved answers. And now hear the truth. The beloved has been answering all along. In every delay, he was not absent. He was preparing. In every silence, he was not rejecting. He was deepening. What you thought was waiting was ripening. What you thought was divine distance was divine nearness, so intense, so absolute, that it could not yet be perceived by senses accustomed only to gross vibrations. The mother bird does not speak to her chick while the shell still holds it bound. Yet all the while she is near, warming, protecting, waiting for the first crack of readiness. So God has hovered over you, unseen but unceasing, waiting for this hour when you are finally ready to hear. Take courage, my beloved. The seeming delay has ended. The ears of your soul are opening. The cry you have carried for so long is about to be met with the answer you always longed for, but never dared to believe possible. Do not doubt any longer. Do not accuse God of silence. Instead, recognize that He has always been speaking, and it is your heart, at last softened by longing, that has learned to listen. Beloved soul, now that you have felt the cry within you and recognized that the waiting was never a denial but a sacred preparation, let me lift before your inner sight the greatest revelation of all. You are not what you have thought yourself to be. You are not a fragile bundle of flesh and fleeting thoughts, not a personality molded only by upbringing and circumstance, not a name scribbled in the dust of time. You are the immortal soul, a spark of the infinite flame, the very breath of God encased for a little while in human form. Every sorrow you have borne has come because you forgot this truth, and every joy that has ever pierced your heart with light came because, if only for a moment, you remembered. This is the forgotten origin you must reclaim now, for without it, life is a riddle that torments, and with it, life becomes the unfolding of divine remembrance. Think of the ancient parable of the prodigal son, told by Christ to awaken slumbering hearts. A young man, son of a wealthy father, took his inheritance and wandered into a distant land, squandering his fortune in distractions and indulgence. Soon he found himself penniless, reduced to feeding swine, starving, alone. And then, at last, in his misery, he remembered, I am the son of a king. Why do I starve in a foreign land when in my father's house there is abundance beyond measure? And with that remembrance, he arose and returned. And the father, far from condemning him, ran to meet him, clothed him in royal robes, placed a ring on his hand, and celebrated his return. My beloved, you are that prodigal child. You wandered far from the mansion of your divine birthright, playing with shadows and feeding on husks of fleeting pleasures, until hunger drove you to despair. But this very hunger is your salvation, for it forces you to remember, I am not meant to live in exile. I am of divine lineage. I am a child of the infinite Father. The scriptures of East and West sing this truth in harmony. The book of Genesis declares that man was created in the image and likeness of God, not partially, not metaphorically, but truly bearing his essence. The Bhagavad Gita whispers with the voice of Krishna, reminding you that the soul is eternal, unborn, undying, a spark of the divine fire that nothing can destroy. Weapons cannot cut it, fire cannot burn it, water cannot drown it, and wind cannot wither it. How vast and unshakable is this identity. And yet, how tragic that you have allowed the veil of forgetfulness to persuade you that you are merely flesh and mind, a puppet of circumstance, a prisoner of fear. Picture within yourself a hidden flame. Around it lie ashes, thick from long neglect, covering its glow. You may even believe the flame is extinguished, but blow gently, with breath of remembrance, and you will see the embers glow, then burst into light. That flame is your true self. No amount of worldly failure can extinguish it, no sin can erase it, no sorrow can quench it. It only waits like a buried treasure for you to remember its presence. Every saint you have admired, every prophet, every awakened master was not different in substance from you. They simply refused to forget. They brushed aside the ashes of Maya, and the flame revealed itself as the very light of God shining in human form. I ask you now, in the silence of your own heart, to repeat, I am not this body, I am not this restless mind. I am the immortal soul, sent from God, sustained by God, destined to return to God. Feel these words not as poetry, but as memory stirring within you. For indeed they are memory, the memory of what you were before birth, what you are now, and what you will be after death. The body is a garment, the mind a tool, the personality a passing role in the drama. but the soul is the actor who cannot die when the scene ends. If you live forgetting this, you suffer endlessly, for you cling to shadows and mourn their vanishing. But when you remember, you live as one who walks through a dream with eyes open, smiling at its phantoms, knowing the dawn is near. Do you see now why your life has felt so small? It is because you have been living as though you were a beggar, when in truth you are a prince of eternity. You chained yourself with thoughts of limitation, repeating, "I am weak, I am afraid, I am alone," while all the while the voice of God within was whispering, "You are my own, my image, my child of light." You must no longer believe the lie of smallness. The time has come for you to rise in remembrance. Let the flame of your true nature burn away every ash of doubt. Let it warm your heart with courage and expand your vision with hope. You are not here to crawl upon the earth as one forgotten. You are here to walk with head lifted, heart aflame, as a conscious bearer of the infinite. Now, beloved, if you are the immortal soul, radiant and eternal, clothed in the image of the infinite, then why does life so often feel like a prison? Why do you feel bound, confused, and deceived? The answer is simple yet vast. You are living under the spell of Maya, the cosmic hypnosis that makes the eternal appear temporary, the infinite appear limited, and the joyous appear sorrowful. Maya is not merely a word in the scriptures. It is the very fabric of illusion that wraps itself around your perception each morning when you awaken and convinces you that the fleeting is lasting, that the shadow is substance, and that the dream of life is all that exists. It is like a veil woven with threads of light and shadow, so finely spun that the soul, gazing through it, mistakes its colors for reality itself. Consider how you live your days. You wake, you work, you pursue desires, you suffer disappointments, you chase after pleasures, and you repeat this cycle again and again. Does it not feel at times like a wheel turning endlessly, grinding the spirit with its monotony? That wheel is Maya. Its power lies in repetition, in convincing you that this constant cycle is reality, when in truth it is only the stage set for the greater drama of awakening. Maya disguises eternity as endless time, disguises changeless joy as alternating pleasure and pain. You find yourself running on a treadmill, sweating with effort, but never moving closer to peace. And yet, the truth is that the treadmill itself is illusory. Step off it by remembrance, and you will see that the ground beneath you has always been the solid floor of God's presence. Let me give you a picture. Imagine sitting in a dark theater, watching a film. The story unfolds on the screen: joy, tragedy, love, loss, war, peace, and you are absorbed, your heart beating with the characters, your emotions tossed with their fate. Yet, if you lift your gaze away from the moving images, you will see a flickering light at the back of the room, a projector casting its beam through the film strip. The entire world you wept over and rejoiced in was never real. It was only shadows on a screen. This is how the universe exists in God's consciousness. All the joy, all the sorrow, all the rise and fall of empires and individuals are images moving on the vast screen of time, projected by the light of spirit. And just as you cannot touch or hold the hero of the movie, so too you cannot grasp the passing experiences of this world. They dissolve as quickly as they appear. The pain of man comes when he mistakes these flickering shadows for solid truth, forgetting the light behind them. Pause with me here. Close your eyes, if only for a breath. Feel the rhythm of your inhalation and exhalation, the rise and fall of your chest. Notice how quickly each breath disappears, never to return. This is the evidence of Maya, the fleeting nature of all things. Nothing in this world lingers. All is in motion, all is change. And yet, do you not feel within yourself a silent witness who observes these breaths, a still awareness that does not change as the body changes, as the years pass, as the circumstances shift? That witness is the soul, untouched by Maya, luminous behind the veil. The tragedy of humanity is that we have allowed Maya to bind us with its chains of forgetfulness. We cry when shadows vanish, we rejoice when new shadows appear, and all the while the light that projects them goes unnoticed. We cling to possessions that pass, to relationships that must one day dissolve, to health that will inevitably alter, and when Maya snatches them away, we collapse in despair. But in truth, nothing was lost, for nothing was ever truly possessed. Only God belongs to you, and only you belong to God. Everything else is part of the dream. This is why life feels like bondage, because we serve the dream instead of awakening to the dreamer. When you mistake the flickering film for reality, you live enslaved by its script. But the moment you remember that it is only a projection, you are free. And how does one awaken? By piercing the veil of Maya through meditation, devotion, and the guidance of divine truth. The more you close your eyes to the outward show, the more you turn your gaze inward to the light within, the more the illusion loses its grip. The shadows fade, and you see clearly that life is a dream in the mind of God, and that you, too, are dreaming, but you can awaken at any moment. My child, let this truth sink deeply. You are not bound by the dream unless you consent to its hypnosis. You are not shackled by Maya unless you agree to believe it. Every moment of remembrance loosens its chains. Every prayer uttered from the heart tears a corner of the veil. Every act of devotion brings you closer to waking. The dream is powerful, yes, but it is not eternal. The Eternal One alone is real, and He calls you even now to open your eyes. Beloved one, having glimpsed how Maya is the vast dream in which the soul wanders, you must now see how that dream becomes intensely personal, how it creeps into your very thoughts and convinces you that you are someone you are not. This personal form of Maya is called ego, and it is the most cunning impostor that ever deceived the children of God. The ego is the mask that whispers, I am the body, I am the mind, I am the name others call me, I am the story of my past and the fears of my future. This impostor slips into your awareness so early and so quietly that you accept it without question. From the moment you were told, this is who you are, the ego stepped forward and took the throne, ruling your life with borrowed authority. Yet the throne did not belong to it, it was meant for the soul, the true sovereign within you. Imagine a thief who breaks into a palace and finds the king's crown resting upon a table. Boldly, he places it on his head and struts through the hallways declaring, I am the ruler of this land. The servants, fooled by the appearance, bow to him. The people, seeing the crown, accept his word. But in truth, he is a pretender, living only on borrowed power, trembling inwardly with the knowledge that if the true king should return, his deception will crumble in an instant. So it is with ego. It steals the crown of identity, and the world, deceived, treats it as the sovereign. It boasts of achievements, it weeps at failures, it trembles at sickness, it cowers at death, all the while pretending to be you. Yet beneath this masquerade, the soul watches silently, waiting for the day you will recognize the impostor and reclaim your crown. The ego interprets every experience according to its narrow lens. When joy comes, it proclaims, I have succeeded. When sorrow comes, it cries, I am undone. When another praises you, it swells with pride. When another criticizes you, it shrinks in shame. It convinces you that you are the sum of others' opinions, the victim of circumstance, the prisoner of desires and fears. And when death approaches, it whispers its cruelest lie, this is the end. You will vanish, for you are nothing more than this body. How long will you let this thief dictate your destiny? How long will you bow before the impostor wearing your crown? Lift your gaze inward and see. Behind the voice of ego there is another presence, quiet but constant, observing without fear, unmoved by praise or blame, untouched by gain or loss. This presence is the soul. The clouds of thought drift across the sky of your consciousness, anger, pride, sorrow, joy, but the sky itself does not change. It is vast, open, luminous. When you mistake the clouds for yourself, you live in turmoil. When you remember that you are the sky, not the passing vapors, you live in freedom. The task of spiritual life is not to destroy the clouds, but to cease identifying with them, to let them pass, while you remain centered in the boundless expanse of your true self. Therefore, begin to watch your thoughts with the eyes of a witness. When the mind says, I am afraid, pause and ask, who is this I? Is it the soul, luminous and fearless? Or is it the impostor, trembling in its borrowed crown? When the heart says, I am unworthy, ask, is this the eternal spark of God speaking, or the ego masking itself with shame? With practice, you will learn to recognize the false voice and turn instead to the silent certainty of the soul. The more you practice this discrimination, the more the grip of ego weakens, until at last it has no power over you. Do not be afraid to unmask the ego. Though it has ruled long, it has no true strength. Its kingdom is illusion. Its power is only borrowed, its authority only assumed. The moment you recognize it, its deception begins to dissolve. Then, like a thief caught in the act, it flees. And when it flees, the true ruler rises the soul, radiant, fearless, and eternal, reclaiming its rightful throne. Remember always, you are not the imposter. You are not the thief wearing the crown. You are the royal child of the infinite, the soul that cannot be bound, the spark of God's own being. Let this remembrance grow strong in you, and Maya will lose its power, for it can deceive only those who forget who they are. Now, my beloved, having seen the mask of ego and the spell of Maya that binds, you may ask with trembling sincerity, what then is the way back? If I am not the body, if I am not the restless mind, if I am truly the soul, how do I live as that soul? How do I return to the mansion of my Father from which I wandered? Fear not, for God, in His compassion, has never left His children without a path. At the very heart of creation, woven into the fabric of your being, there exists a sacred ladder, invisible to the eyes of flesh, yet shining in the light of truth. This ladder leads directly from bondage to freedom, from ignorance to wisdom, from restlessness to bliss. It is the ladder of yoga, of devotion, of discipline and remembrance, and every rung upon it is made of your own choice to turn toward God. This ladder does not stand outside you. It rises within your very spine, the altar of the body where the currents of life flow upward toward the infinite. When Jacob dreamed in the desert, he saw a ladder reaching from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending upon it. This was not merely a story of vision, it was a prophecy of the human condition. Your spine is that ladder. Your breath is the messenger ascending and descending upon it. Your soul is the dreamer who must awaken to climb. Each rung is a step of devotion, the surrender of selfish desire, the discipline of mind, the calmness of breath, the stillness of meditation, the remembrance of divine presence. And each time you climb, you feel more freedom, more light, more joy, until you rise beyond the boundaries of the dream into the embrace of the eternal. Christ declared, "The kingdom of God is within you." And in those few words, He unveiled the great truth. You need not journey to distant places, nor perform endless rituals, nor wait for heaven after death. The kingdom is already here, hidden behind the veil of your senses, waiting to be discovered in the silence of the heart. Krishna, too, spoke to Arjuna and said, "The yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the learned, greater than the ritualist. Be thou a yogi." Why? Because the yogi climbs the ladder of direct communion, not content with words alone, but seeking experience, union, realization. And yet, though the path is clear, it is not without effort. Each rung requires choice. At the foot of the ladder stand countless temptations, the pull of habits, the noise of the world, the inertia of ignorance. But every time you choose stillness over restlessness, devotion over distraction, love over fear, you place your foot upon a higher rung. Every prayer uttered sincerely, every breath offered consciously, every thought surrendered into silence is another step upward. Do not despair if progress feels slow. The ladder does not vanish because you climb it with trembling legs. It waits, steady, luminous, patient, carrying you home rung by rung. Let your heart be encouraged. There is no wandering so far that the ladder does not reach you. No exile so deep that the path does not rise beneath your feet. Even now, in the very breath you take, the first rung glimmers. If you close your eyes and turn your gaze inward, if you lift your heart in longing and whisper, "Beloved Lord, I wish to come home," then already your hand grasps the ladder. Already your soul begins its ascent. Know that you are never alone in this climb. The saints who went before you, the gurus who attained union, the very angels of light, they lean over this ladder to steady you, to encourage you, to remind you that the way is sure. So, take courage, dear one. Place your foot upon the rung of practice, your hand upon the rung of devotion, your gaze upon the rung of remembrance. Step by step, breath by breath, you will rise. The wheel of Maya may spin below, the voice of ego may cry out in protest, but they cannot stop you if you fix your will upon the climb. The ladder is strong, for it was built by God Himself, and it leads unfailingly into His embrace. Remember this: you are not condemned to wander forever. You have a way home, and that way begins the moment you choose to climb. My beloved, though the ladder of return stands shining within you, waiting to carry you back to your source, you will soon discover that each rung must be claimed through the struggle of daily life. This is the place where many falter, for they imagine that the path to God is marked only by moments of ecstasy and meditation, or by rare flashes of inspiration, but in truth, the greater part of the journey is decided in the quiet battlefield of ordinary choices. Every day you awaken in the arena of the soul, and there the contest begins anew. Will you listen to the voice of the ego or the whisper of the spirit? Will you feed the habits of restlessness or nourish the seeds of calmness? Will you let the passing moods dictate your destiny, or will you stand firm in the remembrance of your divine identity? Each decision, seemingly small, tips the scales of karma toward bondage or freedom, and though you may not see it instantly, each choice becomes a stroke of the chisel shaping your eternal character. Consider how temptation approaches you, not as a roaring beast, but as a subtle suggestion. Laziness says, "Rest a little longer, you can pray tomorrow." Doubt says, "What proof have you that God hears you? Why not turn back to the distractions of the world?" Desire whispers, "This pleasure will satisfy you more quickly than silence ever will." Fear murmurs, "Do not trust, you may lose if you let go." And how easily the untrained soul consents, bowing before these inner voices, believing them to be its own. Yet behind them lies the deeper truth. Every surrender to such impulses strengthens the chain of karma, weaving another link in the net of Maya, while every refusal, every act of courage, every moment of devotion burns a strand of bondage and clears the way for freedom. You may say, "But Master, how can such little choices matter so greatly?" Imagine a river flowing with strong current. A single pebble tossed into it creates ripples that widen until they reach both shores. So too each thought, each action, however small, radiates into the ocean of consciousness, creating vibrations that affect not only you but also the world around you. When you choose prayer over complaint, you send ripples of light that strengthen others unseen. When you choose patience over anger, you shift the atmosphere of your home, your workplace, your very body. When you choose remembrance over forgetfulness, you align yourself with the great current of God's will, and that current carries you faster than any effort of your own could accomplish. Do not think the saints were free of such battles. They too awoke each day to voices of fatigue, to storms of distraction, to moments of emptiness. What made them victorious was not that they never stumbled, but that they never surrendered their will to defeat. They rose again and again, refusing to give the final word to despair. The Gita tells us that each man is his own friend and his own enemy. The self saves, and the self, misused, condemns. This means that the battlefield is not outside, but within. You need not conquer armies nor subdue empires. You need only master your own thoughts, your own impulses, your own daily reactions. And when you do, you find that you have conquered the whole world, for nothing external can bind the soul that has mastered itself. Reflect for a moment on this very day. How many choices have you already made since you awakened? Did you rise with remembrance of God, or with thoughts of worry and haste? Did you treat the first soul you met with kindness, or with irritation? Did you turn your mind toward gratitude, or let complaint take root? Each of these was a rung on the ladder, either climbed or neglected. Do not let this reflection breed guilt, but let it awaken awareness. For the power to choose still remains with you now. Even in this moment, as you hear these words, you can decide, I will live today as a soul, not as an ego. I will choose love. I will choose stillness. I will choose remembrance. That single vow, renewed again and again, becomes the practice by which chains are broken and wings are grown. And know this great secret: the daily battle is not endured in vain. Every victory, however small, is stored in the treasury of your soul. No effort is lost, no prayer unheard, no struggle unnoticed. Even when you feel you have failed, the very act of striving has loosened the grip of karma. As the sculptor strikes again and again at the marble, each blow, though it seems only to chip, reveals more clearly the hidden form within. So too your repeated choices, your refusals of temptation, Your turnings toward God, each one brings into clearer view the radiant soul you truly are. Therefore, take up your armor each morning with courage. Guard your thoughts as a sentinel guards a city. Clothe yourself with calmness. Wield the sword of discrimination. Shield yourself with faith, and march onto the battlefield of your day. Do not expect ease, but do expect victory, for God Himself fights within you when you call upon Him. And when the struggle feels overwhelming, remember this: the battle is not endless. Beyond it lies the great unveiling, the universe secret that transforms destiny in an instant. But first you must prove your readiness, for the secret is entrusted only to those who have learned to fight with faith and to endure with love. Beloved soul, now that you understand the daily battle of choices and the ladder that rises before you, let me draw back the veil upon the mystery for which your heart has hungered, the universe secret. This secret is not hidden in some distant galaxy, nor buried in ancient scriptures alone, nor locked away in temples to which only a chosen few have access. It is nearer than your breath, closer than the beating of your heart, and as intimate as the thoughts you silently repeat to yourself each moment. The secret is this: the universe responds not to appearances, not to outer circumstances, but to vibration. All creation is woven of vibration. Every atom, every star, every thought is a rhythm, a song, a resonance, and the law that governs these vibrations is alignment. Whatever vibration you hold in your mind and heart, that the universe amplifies and reflects back to you. When you vibrate with fear, the universe echoes with fear. When you vibrate with love, the universe blooms with love. When you vibrate with remembrance of God, the entire cosmos conspires to draw you into His presence. This is why Yogananda said, "Thoughts are universally, not individually rooted." What you think is not locked inside your skull like a prisoner behind bars. It radiates outward like waves upon a pond, mingling with the waves of others, creating patterns that form the conditions of your life and even of the world. The ego tells you that you are a victim of circumstance, a tiny speck tossed about by forces too vast to control. But the secret unmasks this lie. You are not a passive sufferer, you are a co-creator. Your thoughts, your words, your very breath are instruments through which the symphony of the universe is played. When you tune them to God, you become part of the divine harmony. When you tune them to fear, to anger, to selfishness, you create discord that reverberates through your life. The law is inexorable. As the tuning, so the music. As the vibration, so the destiny. Consider the radio. Invisible waves of sound fill the air around you, songs, voices, symphonies, yet without a receiver tuned to the correct frequency, you hear only static. When you turn the dial, aligning the receiver with the station, suddenly the music emerges, clear and beautiful. Life is like that. Divine joy, wisdom, guidance, and love are broadcast ceaselessly from the heart of God. But if your inner receiver is misaligned by restlessness, negativity, or forgetfulness, all you hear is the static of karma, the noise of Maya. You think life is cruel, silent, empty. But the moment you align your inner vibration through calmness, through devotion, through right affirmation, the music of the infinite fills your consciousness, and what seemed to be chaos is revealed as harmony. This alignment is not achieved by outer action alone. You may strive, you may labor, you may rearrange circumstances endlessly, yet if your vibration is unchanged, the results will mirror your inner state. A man may inherit riches and still live in fear of loss. Another may sit in poverty and yet radiate peace that enriches all who meet him. Do you see? It is not the outer picture that determines the soul's experience, but the vibration carried within. When you learn to master that vibration, when you choose to align it with God's current, you hold the key to freedom. Karma, heavy though it may be, is but static in the receiver. With one adjustment, it fades into silence, and the divine broadcast takes its place. Let this truth fill you with hope. You are not bound to repeat endlessly the patterns of suffering you inherited. The wheel of karma may spin, but its spokes cannot hold you if you align with the higher law. This is the mercy of God, that at any moment, no matter how burdened your past, you can shift your vibration and alter the direction of your destiny. One act of love dissolves the echoes of hatred. One sincere prayer burns the residue of countless careless thoughts. One moment of alignment with the infinite outweighs years of wandering and delusion. The power is not in time, but in vibration. And vibration can be changed in an instant. Do not misunderstand. This is not the shallow law of wishful thinking, nor the vanity of demanding that the universe bend to your desires. No, the secret is deeper. True alignment is not the forcing of reality to match your whims. It is the harmonizing of your little will with the great will. When you say, "Not my will, but thine be done," and mean it with every fiber of your being, then the vibrations of your soul merge with the rhythm of the cosmos, and in that union, all things flow toward your highest good. The false self resists this, craving control, clinging to its demands. But the soul rejoices, for it knows that surrender is not loss but liberation, not weakness but power, not defeat but the supreme victory. So hear me now, dear one. The universe secret is alignment. Align your thoughts with truth, and falsehood falls away. Align your heart with love, and fear loses its grip. Align your breath with God's presence, and restlessness vanishes into peace. Align your will with the divine, and destiny itself bends to lift you higher. The stars may chart your tendencies, your past may whisper its echoes, but the law of alignment overrides them all. You are not a victim of fate, you are the child of the infinite, gifted with the power to choose vibration, to choose remembrance, to choose God. Beloved, now that you have seen how the entire cosmos moves according to vibration and alignment, let me place into your hands one of the simplest yet most profound keys by which you may shift your inner resonance at will: the holy power of speech. Words are not casual sounds that pass like idle wind. They are seeds sown in the fertile soil of consciousness, each carrying within itself the blueprint of what it will become. When spoken with awareness, words are forces that shape destiny, instruments that summon divine presence or reinforce delusion. The universe listens to the vibrations of your lips and tongue, for in them it hears the echoes of your thoughts and the declarations of your heart. Just as God spoke the worlds into being, "Let there be light," and there was light, so you, made in His image, wield in miniature that same creative power. Every word you utter sends a ripple through the field of existence. When you speak with anger, you release fire that burns not only those who hear, but also the chambers of your own heart. When you speak with love, you release balm that heals unseen wounds and strengthens the very cells of your body. When you speak with doubt, you reinforce the chains of limitation, for your speech is an affirmation of belief, and belief shapes reality. And when you speak with faith, you tear the veil of Maya, calling into manifestation the freedom that was always your inheritance. Words, therefore, are not to be wasted. They are to be guarded as jewels, polished with awareness and offered as instruments of alignment. This is why the saints have always given mantras, affirmations, holy names. These are not superstitions nor empty rituals. They are vibrational codes, precise combinations of sound that tune the soul to higher frequencies, just as a musician tunes an instrument to resonate with harmony. When you repeat them with devotion, your entire being begins to vibrate in sympathy with their power. At first, you may feel nothing more than sound upon your lips, but persist, and the vibration sinks deeper, resonating in your nerves, your heartbeat, your breath, until finally it reaches the core of your consciousness, where it ignites remembrance. In that moment, you realize the word you have been repeating was not merely sound, it was truth calling you home. Let me give you one such affirmation, simple yet profound. I am not this body, I am not this restless mind, I am the immortal soul, a child of God. Whisper it with me now, not as poetry, not as a mere phrase, but as an act of remembrance. Speak it slowly, allowing each word to sink, first aloud, so the vibration passes through your ears into your mind. Then softly, as though confiding a secret to your own heart. Then silently, within the temple of thought, letting the vibration resound in the stillness. Feel how the words change the atmosphere of your consciousness. They are not conjuring something new. They are peeling away the lie of ego, the hypnosis of Maya, so that the truth, already present, can shine forth. Breath is the carrier of this sacred speech. Each inhalation is the drawing in of divine energy. Each exhalation is the release of limitation. When you couple your words with breath, you harness the full power of vibration. Inhale, silently affirming, I am not this body. Exhale, releasing tension, whispering, I am the soul, a child of God. In this rhythm, you are not merely speaking, you are reprogramming the vibration of your entire being. Every cell hears, every nerve responds, every hidden corner of the subconscious absorbs the truth. Soon you will find that these words begin to echo within you, unbidden, arising in moments of trial to remind you of who you are. Do not underestimate the simplicity of this practice. The mind, addicted to complexity, may sneer, can such words truly change my karma? But the law of the universe is not bound by man's pride. A single seed, though small, holds within it the power to grow a mighty tree. A single spark can set ablaze a mountain of dry wood. In the same way, a single affirmation, spoken with devotion and repeated with persistence, can dissolve years of karmic residue and open the gates of remembrance. The key is not the length of the phrase, but the alignment of the heart behind it. When the soul cries out through the instrument of speech, heaven itself must answer. Therefore, guard your words. Let no idle gossip flow from your lips, no harsh criticism, no self-condemnation, for these are chains you fashion anew each day. Instead, let your tongue be as an altar from which offerings of light ascend. Begin your mornings by declaring your true identity. End your nights by whispering words of surrender and gratitude. In the silence between tasks, let holy names rise on your breath, weaving a garland of remembrance around your soul. Soon you will see that your speech has become prayer, your prayer has become vibration, and your vibration has become alignment with the infinite. This is the power of sacred speech. It turns every moment into communion, every word into a key, every breath into the song of your return. Beloved soul, understand now that what you are hearing is not an ordinary lesson, not another passing word in the ocean of teachings that the world has thrown at you. This is a divine appointment, arranged not by chance, but by the loving hand of God, who has watched your struggles, measured your tears, and heard the silent cry that you have carried for so long in the chambers of your heart. Today is the day your soul chose to remember, and because of that, this is the day when transformation is not only possible, it is inevitable if you will embrace it with sincerity. The currents of divine will have already begun to flow through you, and if you but step into their stream with faith, you will find yourself carried into a new life, a life no longer bound by the same chains that have held you captive until now. Think of a prisoner who has sat for years in darkness, convinced that the iron bars and the locked gate are unbreakable, convinced that life will be nothing more than endless nights of confinement. Then, one day, in silence, he hears a sound, a click, subtle but unmistakable, the lock turning, the door swinging open. He stands frozen, disbelieving that such a moment could arrive. But the truth is undeniable. Freedom is no longer a dream, it is within his grasp. My dear one, you are that prisoner, and this moment is the sound of your door opening. All the years of longing, all the repetitions of suffering, all the wanderings through Maya have brought you to this threshold. Will you sit still in disbelief, or will you rise and step into the light that now pours into your cell? The choice is yours, but the opportunity is God's gift, and it comes rarely with such force and clarity. This is why I urge you, with the intensity of divine love, to commit yourself now to a new way of living. Do not postpone, do not say, tomorrow I will remember, tomorrow I will pray, tomorrow I will change. Tomorrow is Maya's favorite lie. The only time you will ever have is this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. And it is enough, for within this moment you can choose to align yourself with the infinite. Transformation is not a distant future achievement, it is a present awakening. The very instant you declare with all your will, I belong to God, I will live as His child, the vibrations of your being shift, the currents of karma bend, and the doors of destiny swing open. But this declaration must not remain only a thought. It must be embodied in practice, in discipline, in daily communion. Begin even today with the simple but mighty steps of stillness. When the sun rises tomorrow, before the noise of the world captures your mind, sit in silence. Close your eyes, draw your attention inward, and breathe with reverence. Whisper the sacred affirmation you have learned. I am not this body, I am not this restless mind. I am the soul, a child of God. Repeat it until the words dissolve into feeling, until the feeling dissolves into awareness, until the awareness dissolves into stillness where only God is. Let this practice be the cornerstone of your day. Do it in the morning to set the vibration, and again in the evening to seal your consciousness before sleep. Slowly, day by day, the noise will lessen, the static will fade, and the music of God's presence will fill you. I do not promise you that the world outside will suddenly change. Storms may still rage, difficulties may still come, but within you, the axis will shift. Where once you reacted with fear, you will respond with calmness. Where once you felt enslaved by desire, you will feel free in detachment. Where once you were tormented by doubt, you will stand on the rock of faith. And as your inner vibration aligns, so too the outer conditions will begin to reflect that harmony. You will see doors open where once there were walls, help arriving where once there was isolation, joy blossoming where once there was only emptiness. Such is the law of divine alignment. When you change within, the universe cannot but echo your transformation. So take this moment seriously. Let it not pass as mere words on a screen, forgotten tomorrow in the noise of life. Write it in your heart. This was the day I remembered. This was the day I chose. This was the day I stepped through the open door. Carry that vow into your actions, into your thoughts, into your speech. And when the shadows of old habits try to pull you back, repeat with fierce devotion, "No, I am free. God has called me, and I will not return to sleep." In that declaration lies your victory, for God Himself responds to the cry of the soul that wills to be free. Beloved, now that you stand at the threshold of transformation and have felt the call to commit yourself anew, I must show you how to seal this change so that it does not fade like a dream upon waking. Many souls experience a moment of light, a flash of inspiration, and for an hour or a day they walk as if reborn, but soon the hypnosis of old habits returns. The gravity of Maya pulls them down, and they forget what they saw. To prevent this, you must not only taste the truth, you must install it, carve it into the very fibers of your consciousness until it becomes the bedrock of your identity. This is the purpose of affirmation loops, of sacred repetition joined with feeling and breath, to etch eternal truth into the mind so deeply that no wave of delusion can erase it. Let us begin with the declaration. I am light, I am free, God lives through me. Speak it aloud, slowly, as if you are proclaiming it not only to yourself but to the very universe. Feel the vibration of each word roll through your chest, your throat, your very bones. Then repeat it again, not louder but deeper, sinking the words into your heart. Finally, close your eyes and speak it inwardly, silently, until it becomes not sound but awareness, not thought but being. Do you feel how the phrase begins to shift from something you say into something you are? This is the process of installation, declaration, repetition, identity. With each cycle, the truth burrows deeper, replacing the false patterns of ego with the luminous memory of the soul. Now anchor it with breath. Inhale and silently affirm, I am light. Let the breath fill you as if you are drawing in radiance from the very stars. Exhale and affirm, I am free. Release every tension, every fear, every shadow, as if they are smoke leaving your body. Pause in the stillness after the exhale and feel, God lives through me. Let this awareness settle in the quiet like a seed sinking into fertile soil. Each breath becomes a ceremony, each repetition a stroke of the chisel carving truth into your being. Practice faithfully. This rhythm transforms the very chemistry of your mind, the very vibration of your cells, until freedom and light are no longer affirmations but natural states. Picture yourself as a bird, long caged, its wings cramped, its feathers dulled by dust. One day, the door is opened. At first, the bird hesitates, uncertain whether it can fly, but then it spreads its wings and feels the rush of air beneath them. With each beat, the memory of flight returns, and soon it soars into the open sky, where it belongs. This bird is your soul. An affirmation is the practice of flapping your wings again and again until flight becomes effortless. Do not despise repetition. It is not the dull hammering of rote habit, but the sacred training of freedom. Each time you repeat, you are teaching your wings to trust the sky. Make this your practice each day. Upon waking, before the demands of the world flood in, sit quietly and install your eternal identity. Whisper the truth until it fills your mind. Repeat it until your heart burns with conviction. Breathe it until every cell sings it. Throughout the day, whenever fear arises, answer it with, I am free. Whenever darkness clouds your thoughts, answer with, I am light. Whenever loneliness presses upon you, answer with, God lives through me. In this way, your old self will gradually dissolve, and your true self will stand unveiled, shining with the certainty of its divine origin. Understand this well. You are not creating something new. You are remembering what has always been. The flame does not need to be manufactured, it only needs to be uncovered. Your identity as soul, as light, as child of God has never been lost. It has only been buried beneath layers of forgetfulness. By installing this remembrance, you sweep away the ashes, you polish the mirror, you let the sun of truth reflect without distortion. And once installed, this truth becomes unshakable. No storm can uproot it, no criticism can weaken it, no sorrow can eclipse it. It becomes the very ground you walk upon, the very air you breathe, the very center of your being. So rise now in the certainty of who you are. You are not the fragile ego trembling before the world. You are not the sum of your mistakes, nor the victim of your past. You are eternal light. You are unbound freedom. You are the living temple through which God's love flows into creation. Install this truth with every breath, and you will find that your life has already changed forever. Beloved, you have now received the message that your soul has long awaited, and the vibration of it has begun to work within you. But this journey does not end with personal awakening alone. When one soul remembers, when one heart tears the veil of Maya and steps into the light, the ripples of that awakening spread outwards into the great ocean of humanity. You are not an isolated island. You are a wave of the infinite sea. And when a wave rises in light, its movement lifts the waters around it. This is the final seal of the universe secret. You are not merely to live as one who is free, you are to live as a bearer of freedom for others, a torch that carries the flame of remembrance into the night of forgetfulness. When you walk through this world as one aligned with God, the atmosphere around you changes. People may not know why they feel calm in your presence, why their burdens seem lighter when you smile, why hope awakens when you speak a kind word. But the reason is clear. Your vibration radiates, touching them beyond their conscious awareness. Just as the fragrance of a flower cannot be hidden, so the perfume of divine remembrance cannot be contained. The saint does not need to preach with force. His very being preaches silently, eloquently, unceasingly. And so must you learn to walk as a living reminder that God is near, that the soul is immortal, that freedom is possible. The scriptures bear witness to this. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna assures that even a little practice of remembrance saves one from great fear. In the Gospel, Christ says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." Do you see the harmony? Both East and West proclaim the same secret. The awakened soul is meant not only to enjoy liberation, but to shine as a beacon. If you hoard your light, it dims. If you share it, it grows. If you live only for your own freedom, your joy is limited. If you vow to help others, your joy expands beyond measure. This is why I spoke, in my poem, God's Boatman, of returning again and again to this world, if need be, until every stray brother and sister has crossed the ocean. For what is the worth of your freedom if your brothers still wander in chains? So let your awakening become a vow. Say within yourself, I will live not only for my salvation, but as a channel of God's love, as a witness to His truth, as a comfort to those who suffer, as a reminder to those who forget. Do not imagine this requires grand gestures or public acclaim. It requires only that you live sincerely, that you let each word be kind, each thought be pure, each action be consecrated. In the silence of your meditation, you lift countless souls. In the humility of your service, you reveal God's face. In the constancy of your joy, you weaken the grip of despair upon the earth. You need not know how the ripples spread. It is enough that you live as a bearer of the secret. And here, beloved, lies the cosmic seal. The universe secret is not given to you to keep hidden. It is given that you may embody it, radiate it, and become part of the great wave of awakening that sweeps through creation. Imagine the night sky. One star shines, then another, until the whole firmament glitters with light. You are one of those stars, and your shining adds to the glory of the heavens. One awakened soul may not banish all darkness, but together, countless lights dissolve the night. This is God's plan. This is the destiny of humanity, that each soul in time awakens and remembers, and the world itself is transformed from a prison into a temple. So I bless you now. Live as one who remembers. Walk gently but firmly, speak softly but truthfully, serve humbly but with radiant love. Let the remembrance of God flow in your breath. Let the affirmation of your freedom shine in your eyes. Let the certainty of your divine identity steady your every step. And when others look at you in wonder and ask, "What has changed in you?" you need not explain with many words. Smile and let your presence answer, "I have remembered. I am light. I am free. God lives through me." Now, beloved one, we arrive at the gentle close of this sacred journey, though in truth it is not an ending but the opening of a greater beginning. I invite you, wherever you are, to pause and enter into this moment with all the reverence of one standing before the altar of eternity. Sit quietly, if you can, and let your body rest in stillness, your spine upright as the ladder of light that connects earth to heaven. Place your hands upon your heart, for it is the true temple, and close your eyes to the flickering shadows of the outer world. Feel the rhythm of your breath, that silent companion who has never left you since the day of your birth, and let each inhalation remind you that life is a gift of spirit, and each exhalation remind you that all burdens can be released back into that same spirit. As you breathe, begin to whisper within yourself the sacred words you have learned. I am light. I am free. God lives through me. With each inhalation, silently affirm, I am light, as if you are drawing into your being the golden rays of dawn. With each exhalation, affirm, I am free, releasing into the vastness every fear, every memory of bondage, every shadow of doubt. Then in the pause, feel deeply, God lives through me, until it is no longer thought but radiant awareness. Allow this cycle to continue for several breaths, until your whole being feels washed, cleansed, renewed, as though you have bathed in the very river of divine remembrance. Now, in this sanctified silence, I give you my blessing. May the peace of God, deeper than the oceans and vaster than the sky, settle upon your soul like a mantle of light. May the joy of spirit, ever new and untouchable by sorrow, blossom in the garden of your heart until its fragrance fills every chamber of your being. May the strength of divine love steady your steps, so that no storm of circumstance can shake you, no voice of Maya can deceive you, no shadow of ego can bind you. May you walk this earth as a living flame, reminding all who cross your path that God is near, that freedom is possible, that the soul is eternal. Carry this remembrance into your nights and into your mornings. When you rise, whisper the affirmation that you are light. When you work, repeat silently that you are free. When you rest, feel that God lives through you. Let these words become the background music of your existence, a prayer woven into every breath, until at last the prayer disappears and only God remains. Remember always, this day was not an accident. This was the day your soul awakened, the day the lock clicked open, the day you stepped through the door of destiny. Never again believe the lie that you are small, that you are forgotten, that you are powerless. You are eternal light. You are unbounded freedom. You are God's own beloved child. So go now, clothed in this remembrance, carrying the seal of the universe secret in your heart. Share it not with pride but with humility, not with noise but with radiance, not with words alone but with the vibration of your very being. And when you forget, as all do at times, return to this moment, return to this breath, return to the affirmation, and you will find that the door of remembrance never truly closes. For once opened, it stands open forever. My prayer for you is this: may you walk in freedom until the end of your days, and beyond that, into eternity itself.